Okay, are we not short of one? Maybe because it's a presentation, we can start.
It's a presentation. You are not going to take any decision now, Chairperson.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me welcome everybody that has managed to join us in this meeting. As our culture, I'm going to request, even including our guests, to join us as we observe a moment of silence for meditation or prayer. Thank you and amen. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Yes, and amen. So let me take this opportunity to welcome the two DMs and the department led by DG, I suppose. And then welcome. Can I request everybody to mute your mic? Mute your mic. Honorable members and our guests. Thank you. I was saying that we want to take this opportunity to welcome our deputy ministers, Tate Mahlobo and DM Chwete, the acting DGs for both water and sanitation and human settlement, and take opportunity to welcome our invitees, our MECs, both from Northern Cape and Eastern Cape. You are dearly welcome to this. Honorable members, this is the continuation of engaging on the plan, on the strategic plan and APPs of the department, because as we engage with these plans or appropriate the resources, the majority of the resources are being allocated to provinces, and therefore it's important to understand whether provinces are in line with the outcome as declared by the national government. So we've invited the two MECs to be part of this. MECs, I didn't get the names. I want to ask them that. Koliswa?
Hello, Chairperson.
I didn't get the names of the MECs.
It's on the agenda, Chairperson. It's MEC Vas from the Northern Cape and MEC Peters from Eastern Cape.
Peters.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Nonkubela Peters. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, MEC. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome MEC Vas and MEC Peters in our meeting. We have noted apology from the minister. He is part of the team that has visited Western Cape, led by the president, and we want to wish them well in their journey, because Western Cape really has been ravaged by this pandemic so badly, and we wish them well in their visit. And we want to start by acknowledging that probably it might be for the first time that we are interacting with the provinces, and MECs and their teams. They are welcome to engage in areas that they feel they don't understand, and we are ready for any persuasions and discussions, and want to thank everybody for coming to this meeting. We have the Koliswa, you can guide me because I don't see the agenda here in my laptop. We have which province starts?
We are going to start with the Eastern Cape, the MEC opening remarks for 5 minutes, and then the presentation by Human Settlements, 15 minutes, Chairperson.
But because the DMs are here, let's give them their minutes too, or they'll want to come late when we close. The two DMs, you want to give the opening remarks to the MECs and you closed, or
Let's close.
No, my suggestion, Chair, is that before Ma'am Pems leaves, she can have a remark. I will speak before the acting DG makes the presentation on the alignment part because we wanted to see the integration. Thank you.
okay. Ma'am Pem is not leaving. Who has given her opportunity to leave? Are you chairing the meeting?
It's not me, it's the younger brother, Comrade Chair. Thank you.
No, Ma'am Pem is not leaving this meeting. No one has released her. So we've released the minister because he has joined the president.
We're in your hands, Honorable Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to DM Chwete. You can do your opening remarks, or you can make the closing remark later on as we're closing. And if you need to do that, I think it will be important for you to welcome the MEC for Eastern Cape in our meeting. We did that as an executing authority of national department. Let's do that for
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to all members of the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, DM Mahlobo, and my Honorable Chairperson that I love too much, and also the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. I also want to welcome both national and provincial departments, Human Settlements and Water Chair. I know that there is also the Eastern Cape, which is going to start in the agenda during the presentation of what you've requested us to do. Chairperson, I would like to thank you and your committee members for giving us this opportunity to present the business plan, the district development, Northern Cape and Northern Cape provincial departments for the financial year 2020-2021. Chair, I think this is good for us. It's my first time to be part of the meeting like this one. And I'm very happy, Chair, that you've called these two departments. We just want to recall, members of parliament, that Northern Cape of those provinces that did not use the money, utilize it. And I hope this time they are ready to utilize the money, and we will listen to their presentations. And Eastern Cape is one of the provinces that utilized the money. They were given 26 million, which was taken from provinces that did not use the money. And for this, Chair, I think it's very good for us. It's some kind of monitoring. And going forward, Chair, will make it our core business that all provinces do not deviate from the approved business plan during the implementation period. Chair, I'm given 2 minutes, and I think within the presentation, give us to ask questions or to add to the presentation. I don't want to waste time for the opening remarks, Chair, but I would like to thank you very much for this opportunity. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DM. Let's welcome the MEC from Eastern MEC Peters.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable DMs, Honorable Chete, and Honorable Mahlobo, and my colleague from the Northern Cape, Honorable Vas, and all the honorable members of the committee, the DGs, and all the officials of both departments.
Chairperson, apologies. Can the MEC maybe close the curtain? Because she's in a very dark place.
Do you want to see me?
Because you have shown your
MEC,
face, it's better for us to see you.
We can't see you properly. Yes, you can't see you. Probably the curtain is here. Okay.
Thank you, MEC.
Now we can see you. Thank you very much, MEC.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I greet you all in this Youth Month. Those who are meeting in June, it's Youth Month, and also during this period of COVID-19. And let me thank this opportunity for the Portfolio Committee to invite us to this meeting and present our case as the Eastern Cape. As we all know that according to Estates SA here in the Eastern Cape, SCA 2016, the community survey, the Eastern Cape province has a total of 565,447 older persons and 295,000 people living with disabilities and 25,116 child-headed households. Whilst the department, we have decided to reprioritize the list of more than 70,000 approved beneficiaries in the HSS. Given the constrained budget that we have, we are still faced with a huge number of destitute and most vulnerable groups as the province. And in addition to this, we have received 1,400 veteran applications from veterans, military veterans that have applied for housing opportunities, of which 625 have been confirmed by the Department of Military Veterans. So the above is giving us a clear indication that as government alone, we cannot satisfy all the needs of our people. And we need to embark vigorously on social compact. Honorable Chairperson, as the Eastern Cape, we had launched Operation Siakatala with e-business people. We had a business session in February.
Sorry, Chair, to disturb. MEC, don't you have a presentation? Maybe we look at the presentation while you are talking, because I don't see the presentation. Is it not going to be shown on...
The presentation is going to be done by the HOD, and it was sent to the office. It's just the opening remarks, DM.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I continue, Honorable Chair?
Yes, continue.
So as the department, we we consulted the municipalities.
Order an opening remark.
Honorable Chair.
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. We consulted the municipalities because we agreed that we need to reprioritize our list as the department and municipalities to focus on the destitute people and people that are living with disabilities, the child-headed homes, and the military veterans, so that we are able to provide houses for them. But also, Chair, in this financial year, the HOD will dwell more on it, but we are targeting 113 informal settlements from the 6 districts that will be upgrading into different stages. And we have set aside a budget of 270 million for that out of the 1.8 billion that we have for from HSDG. And the 2 metros have received money from National. They are budgeted for straight from National, and it is 152 million for BCM and also 181 million for Nelson Mandela. So in that money, they will be able to deal also with the upgrading of the informal settlement. As we know that we are also meeting during this time of COVID-19, where this pandemic is demanding all of us as government from all spheres of government to come together and all stakeholders to come together and fight the spread of the virus. And as the province, during this period, we have, because we had completed houses, so we have handed over those houses, more than 150 houses during this period of COVID-19 to the beneficiaries. And also we have provided temporary shelters in the situations where the situation is dire and people cannot live under those circumstances, and in where the situation is unbearable. So as we know that during winter time, the virus will strive more. So we are giving houses to people, but the HOD will dwell in her presentation on what we have done during this period and also what we are going to do for COVID-19. With those few words, Honorable Chair, before I introduce the team that I'm with, Chair, as the department, we are given a target of more than 52,000 houses that we have to build during this period, this term of 5 years. But we are in a predicament because the budget is shrinking, the fiscus is shrinking, and the budget is reducing every financial year. So we won't be able to deliver those units given the budget unless the budget is increased. But that one will negotiate with the department, Kuminmek. Thank you, Honorable Chair. The HOD is with the Chief Directors, Chief Director Suresh and Chief Director Uven, that is, and informal settlements. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, HOD.
Good afternoon, Chair, honorable members, honorable DM and the MEC, DG and colleagues. Honorable Chair, my name is Tabisa Poswa, and we have got 2 presentations to make. One is the presentation on the business plans, and I will lead on that one. I would request a Koliswa to actually flag it for us, or perhaps we flag it for ourselves, if I can get guidance, Honorable Chair. And the other presentation, which is on the district development plan, will be presented by Mr. Kalahiti Yawa, the other program head. Can I get guidance, Chair, if Koliswa can?
You can control your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll start.
Both of you have only 20 minutes.
On point of order, Honorable Mushala, we can't see we can't see the speaker. We want to see the speaker. Who are we speaking to? She must
Okay.
on her video. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
HOD, you have 20 minutes to present your business plan and the others that you are going to present. So please use your skill to assist us in keeping the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'm hoping that I'm visible now, Honorable Chair and members.
Presentation mode.
I've put off on the camera. And there is the presentation already reflecting from my side.
I don't see you. I don't know others whether they see you. No, they can't see you, ma'am.
No, because there's a presentation now on the screen. We won't see her chairperson.
Okay.
Okay, presentation. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'm immediately zooming into the presentation, and I'm just reflecting the contents there. Honorable Chair and members, I will not get into depth, but I just want to reflect at a high level the medium-term strategic framework targets that we have put for the 6th administration, and I will talk quickly to the 2021 approved grants, and then I will quickly reflect on the regional targets with the budgets. And I will talk to the breakdown of the upgrading of informal settlements. And then I will quickly talk to the COVID-19 interventions. And I'm just reflecting there that we have got an annexure that is actually giving the specifics of the upgrading of informal settlements program, which actually we see as we continue. And I presented that in this term there will be 257. In that slide, I'm trying to say that we have got these priority housing development areas that have been pronounced, and we will be implementing their integrated human settlements programs in all of these. And these were pronounced by the minister. It's the Bay West development areas, it's your Bethel Stop corridor, it's the Udine Kwanobutle corridor, it's Ristin Scenery Park, and it's East London West and Buffalo City Airport corridor, and Mthatha Central Business District. And so we will be having an intervention on all these of integrated human settlements. Also, we will be delivering housing units through our various subsidy mechanisms, especially the Breaking New Ground. And these will be inclusive of the rectification and the units for military veterans. And the plan is to have 52,251. Also, the other intervention that we have under this term, it will be the housing units utilizing the instrument, which is the Finance-Linked Individual Subsidy Program, which we term a FRISP. And out of this subsidy, we want to deliver 1,500 for the term. We also have got plans of delivering service sites, and we are planning to have 14,341, bearing in mind that this is not inclusive of the 2 metros because they have got the USDG. And also bearing in mind that most of our province is mostly rural, and therefore the services that are there are partial services in the house, but then you've got the other municipalities, the little ones that you must provide service sites on. Then we also planning to have social housing, that is the rental stock now, in the priority development areas. And the plan is to deliver over this period 2,178. Also, the other intervention will be our community residential units. Also, we are targeting the priority development areas, and the plan there is to have at least 550 during this period. Then we also have planned to, as an intervention, to upgrade informal settlements to phase 3. And that is from phase 1 to phase 3. Now, the number that we're targeting for the whole period is 257. And in the Eastern Cape, perhaps to just say that, yes, we've got 568. However, the other informal settlements are falling within the 2 metros. And so we're targeting those settlements that already have got assessment and with plans in place. And we are also planning to eradicate backlog and issue the title deeds for security of tenure. And we want to actually have 5,934 for the pre-1994 stock that was already there in place, but with no security of tenure for the owners. Then you also want to deal with 43,058 title deeds. Now, from the post-1994, all the houses that we've built as government, and also these ones, we are planning from 1994 to 2013, 2014, because there is a grant that was put aside to actually deal with this backlog. But then for 2014 to date, we have planned title deeds of an amount of 23,502 for the whole term. Now, coming to the approved grants that have been approved for the financial year 2021. On the Human Settlements Development Grant, we have got an approved allocation of 1.5, and the plan is to build for this year 8,123 units. And also we want to also have 4,181. And also on the 2014 to date grants, title deeds, we want to issue 5,000 new title deeds, and that is all falling under the 1.5 allocation. Also, to just reflect on the 8,123, that these are the low-cost housing, which is 7,758. You've also got the instrument of individual subsidies, and we're targeting 165. And then you've got the FLISP, which will be the 200, and that gives us that housing opportunities of 8,123. And then coming to the grant of upgrading of informal settlements, that is 270 million, and we are targeting for the financial year 2021 113 informal settlements. And as I had already indicated in the table of contents, Honorable Chair, we've gotten a specific details pertaining to this. Then the grant for the title deeds restoration grant has been 64 million. And this grant actually assists with pre-conveyancing activities that have been actually hindering the registration of grants in the province. So it's inclusive of that, as well as the registration of the title deeds as well. So there we have targeted 500 for pre-1994 title deeds, and we have also targeted 9,500 for post-1994 to pre-2014 title deeds. And as I've already indicated, that 5,000 from 2014 to date will be in the HSDG. It is in the Human Settlements Development Grant. And the following slide is seeking to actually reflect for us the targets per region and the budget that has been allocated per region. The Alfred Nzo has been allocated 229, with sites that will yield 1,556, and the units that will be yielded, it's 1,556 as well. In Amatole, you have got an allocation of 124, which will yield a site of 204, and the units that are expected in Amatole is 576. In BCM, we have allocated 262. We're expecting a yielding of 54 sites. Because BCM has got the USDG and will be delivering the other sites on their own. And the units that are expected for BCM is 1,451. In Krisani, we have got an allocation of 231, and we are expecting to yield sites of 676 and housing opportunities of 1,065. And in Jotabi, we have allocated an 86 million to yield sites of 238, as well as housing opportunities of 416. In the Nelson Mandela, you will notice that our grant has gone down this year because in the previous year, we could not perform properly, and we deemed it fit that the challenges that we had there, whilst we are still trying to deal with them, because we're engaging with the municipality, but we could not give the same budget we had given last year, because last year it was 525 million, but then we had to adjust it during midterm and it was 200 and something million. But still, the Nelson Mandela was not yet there, but it is something that we're engaging on with the metro. So this year we have allocated 205. We are expecting a yielding of units of 1,021. And no sites have been allocated because they have got a USDG that they will use in order to yield sites. In OR Tambo, we've allocated 236. And the sites that we expect to yield out of that is 1,253. And the units that will be yielded there is 1,254. In Sarabarman, we have allocated a 90 million, which should be yielding sites of 200. And the units that can be yielded is 375. And we are saying, therefore, that at the total, we have got centralized units, which are those that I had talked to earlier on, the fleece and the individual subsidies, which are amounting to a 65. And the units that will be yielded there is 365. That is the social house, the 165 of the individual subsidies and the fleece of 200. And the total is 8,123, as I had already indicated, on the housing opportunities. But perhaps I need to reflect also that, Honorable Chair, the 8,123 is inclusive of rectification. And the total amount of the rectification and the appetite that we could give to the province is 810,000 opportunities. Also inclusive on the 8,123 is the 645 that was already mentioned by the MEC for the military veterans. And the MEC, as she had already indicated, that these are the ones that are already confirmed by Department of Military Veterans. On the following slide, I am seeking to display the regional breakdown of the upgrading of informal settlements, the ones that I had already referred to as being 113. Here, I'm just reflecting that in Alfrenzo, you've got 4 settlements that will be upgraded, and the budget that is also reflected there. In Amatole, you've got 26 settlements, and the budget that is also reflected as 78. In Krisani, you've got 19. In Jolkabi, you've got 10. And in OR Tambo, you've got 20. And in Sarabarman, you've got 34. And that makes us 113 with a budget of 270, as already indicated. Now, I'll quickly go through to the interventions that are being done for the COVID-19. The first intervention was seeking to have a readiness and preparedness should there be an outbreak on any of the denser or overcrowded informal settlements, so that if it is becoming necessary to remove anybody and resettle them somewhere, then we are prepared. And these are the informal settlements that we are ready for as per municipality. In Amahlati, we've got those informal settlement, Bongoletu, Orisi Denge, and the targeted intervention is that out of the households that are there, 70 households will be relocated to temporary residential units. In Amahlati, there's also another one called Upper Izele, and there the target is to remove 150 out of the 1,238 households that are there. In Inokum Gijima, you've got Mlungisi Cemetery, and that is targeted to remove 50 households should it become necessary out of the 700 households. In Great Kai, you've got an informal settlement called Umha in Xhosa, but it's Gomga, and the targeted intervention is 150 resettlements and relocation should it become necessary out of the 1,500. And in Muza, you've got an informal settlement known as Nkululekweni, where the targeted intervention would be for 70 households to be relocated should it become necessary. In KSD, you've got a Krisani, where the target is 150 households out of the 3,436 that could be relocated and resettled. You also have got another informal settlement at KSD that is called Zone 14. And there, out of 882 households, the target is 50 households that can be relocated and resettled. In Kouga, you've got an informal settlement called Cyril Ramaphosa, where the targeted intervention would be 450 households out of 1,200 households as an intervention. And also you've got Ocean View, where we are targeting 150 temporary removals should it become necessary out of the 1,250 households that are there. And then you go to Alfred Nzo, where you've got an informal settlement called Downtown, and the target there is a household of 50 out of the 350 households that are there. In Muma, there is an informal settlement, Madiba Kayalicha, and there the target is 100 households out of the 500 households that are actually that can be relocated and resettled.
Chairperson, while I really sympathize with the MEC on the details, I'm looking at your time. As you said, there's limited time. But if there's an extended time, I'm fine that the MEC can continue like this. I was thinking that the MEC can just talk to it and then without mentioning out of how many. Apologies, Chair.
Okay, no, I've indicated it's 20 minutes. I thought they are still on time because the 5 minutes was for the MEC, and then the DM has taken another 3 minutes. Let's proceed, HOD.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Perhaps, Honorable Chair, let me just, I had only 2 slides to go to, which is just reflecting on a Muma and Port St. John's and Umzimvubu and the households, and also just was going to reflect on the fact that there are those homeless people that are being taken in at this point in time by the metros and the municipalities. There we are trying to ensure that we can have these people back to their families if it is possible, and we include these if they qualify by providing them in the existing running projects. And any other emergency cases that are falling outside the informal settlements, we continue to provide them with temporary the temporary units for emergency cases. I also thought that, Honorable Chair, that if we can allow Mr. Kalahitiawa to quickly go the presentation of the district development.
Yes, but we have 7 minutes. Now it's 6. Is it my budget only? HOD?
Thank you, Honorable. We are just the presentation.
No, your
must switch off.
very bad.
Switch off some few devices there.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable members of the committee, and Honorable MEC for Eastern Cape, my MEC, and the MEC for Northern Cape, National DG and DGs, and let me say all protocols observed. My name is Suresh Kalahitiawa. I will stick to the time that was allocated to me. The presentation is going to be on the implementation of pilot projects on the district development models. In the presentation, I will refer to as DDMs. On slide 2, Honorable Chair and the Honorable members, you have got the headings and the slide numbers, so members can refer to any slide and the heading that is on the table of contents. If you go to slide 3, honorable members, OR Tambo is sitting at the third level in terms of intensity of poverty, behind Alfonso and Joe Kabi. So it gives an indication as to how important OR Tambo is and why the interventions are needed. And if you go to the next slide, Honorable Chair, that's slide 4. In 2019, as the mid of year, it's estimated that the population has grown to 1.5 million. And out of the 314 households in OR Tambo, 54%, that's almost 26, almost double of the Eastern Cape in terms of the informal settlements dwellings. And out of the 6.3 households in OR Tambo, there are 65% rated as good or average, and 34% were rated as poor. On slide 5, on the district development coverage model, then we are expressing the enablers on the infrastructure that supports the human settlements, urban and rural projects in terms of water, sanitation, roads, electricity, and land reforms. Under water and sanitation and roads, there are continuous engagements held with the municipalities on project planning. And also, we must not forget that there are historically poor planned projects were blocked due to non-availability of bulk, mainly. Then in terms of electricity, all plans are submitted and approved by the municipality prior to commencement of projects. The function is with the local municipality and interact directly with ESCOM. In terms of land reforms, the province has not contributed to any land reforms since majority of projects are rural based and have communal land rights. These are in terms of OR Tambo. Then the next slide, slide 6, the district development, we continue. The catalytic projects, SMME development, EPWP and national water crisis, greening and disaster management and technology and innovations. In terms of catalytic projects, there are no declared catalytic projects in OR Tambo, even though there are other regions. Then the SMME development, the department takes it very seriously in terms of SMME development. Currently, there are 33 SMMEs to be developed in the following projects. That is Mshloshlo 160, Port St. John's 200, Kwekwe 300, and there's continuous subcontracting of local SMMEs by established contractors. In terms of EPWP program, there are 200 young people will be trained under EPWP program. There are 50 in Matatiele local municipality, 50 in Buffalo City Metro, that is in Orange Group. Then there's 50 in Great Kai local municipality and 50 in Blue Crane local municipality. But we must say that the funding that has been allocated is not sufficient. We can do more. But then in terms of water security crisis, the department is providing a water tank and a stand to all house build in the rural areas, and that is a standard. In terms of greening and climate change, there are no active interventions in this regard, which will be part of the plans with the municipality, since it plays a major role in human settlements and OR Tambo. My apologies, there's a spelling mistake that needs to be corrected. Then in terms of technology and innovations, there's an IBT to be used to respond to disaster cases to ensure timely responses. If you go to slide 6, in terms of integrated special planning, Human Settlements, Department of Human Settlements provide inputs into the provincial disaster and local municipal special planning process as driven by its own policy processes. In OR Tambo district is considered as a pilot to integrate all planning processes with all other sector plans, water, sanitation, electricity, and municipal services in the district development model. We want to say that there are 45 projects in OR Tambo out of 115 that are in terms of active projects that conforms to the principles of district development model. But there are plans in place to ensure that 100% compliance before the year end. Slide 8, approach to the district development model. In terms of beneficiary backlog, Honorable Chair and honorable members, there are 8,538 beneficiaries that are waiting for houses since 1998. And out of that, there are 77% of them are over the age of 40 years. Then also the department has embarked on a rigorous evaluation and review and reprioritization of approved beneficiaries to ensure that it responds rapidly and consistently to the plight of our destitutes and vulnerables. In terms of poverty and lack of economic stimulus packages, the procurement strategies in the department have been amended to accommodate local economic development and allocation of work orders to local SMEs. The disaster plan, the department is developing a disaster management strategy working with COCTA in line with the Provincial Disaster Management Framework. The destitute projects, the reprioritization of most destitute cases in all projects as well as projects approvals, cleaning up HSS approvals to reprioritize the most destitute, elderly, child-headed, people with disability and military veterans. Slide 9, the prioritization criteria. The province and the local spheres have prioritized prioritization criteria on projects in OR Tambo region. All other sectors will be included in a set of integrated prioritization criteria for decision making. The DDM process should take all the district level socio-economic demographic into consideration and develop a criteria to prioritize programs and projects. These processes linked with special development process should be the criteria to identify projects in the future. The pilot project will be implemented from this process. What we are saying is, in terms of institutional arrangements, the effective corporate governance and maximum cooperation among the three spheres of government and other stakeholders is key if the process to be successful. Currently, there are quarterly political engagements by the MEC and MMC sessions are being held. The IGR forum in the OR Tambo district municipality is chaired by the executive mayor of the district and district provides the platform for intergovernmental planning, cooperation and implementation. In OR Tambo, Human Settlements Regional Office represented by the regional director participate in the quarterly IGR forums where the human settlements programs and projects are discussed. In OR Tambo, all 5 municipalities are represented on the IGR forums by their political and administrative heads. Honorable members and Honorable Chair, on slide 11, we are giving you a snapshot of the projects, the active projects in OR Tambo district. I will read this slide, but the other slides from slide 12 to slide 18, I will not read because the details are there. OR Tambo district, there are 27 sites and 27 units have been allocated for the 2021 financial year with a budget of 4.5 million. In Nusa municipality, there are 198 sites and units and allocated 33.6 million. Then King Sabata Dali Nebo KSD, there are 437 sites were planned and 437 units and 100 rectification at a value of 91.1 million. In Flonslow municipality, there are 185 units and 185 sites and 2 rectification planned with a budget of 31.7 million. In Nyandeni municipality, there are 298 sites and 298 units plus 5 rectification were allocated with a budget of 51.3 million. For Port St. John's, there's 108 sites and 108 units and 33 rectification units allocated 23.9 million. So for the entire OR Tambo, there is a target of 1,253 sites and 1,253 units and 140 rectification with a budget of 236.5 million have been allocated. Chair, if I skip the slides and I go to slide 19. We go to upgrading of informal settlements. I think much about it been said by our Honorable MEC and HOD. I will not dwell much about it. There are a number of informal settlement projects planned for OR Tambo is 20 with the allocation of 69 million. The province have a NASP forum that is held quarterly with municipalities wherein municipalities present their plans which are in their IDPs. The plans presented by municipalities are checked for compliance and once accepted they find expression in our business plan. Interim services have been installed including basic water and sanitation and administrative tenure recognition is provided. Currently the research is undertaking to obtain a clear socio and demographic profile of the settlement. Chair, issues to be addressed, I think these are very crucial. A number of issues are identified as challenges to effective integration. Intergovernmental relations, IGR effectiveness at provincial, district and local municipal level is very key. And then we are saying, Chair, a paradigm shift is needed in order to address the medium to long-term budgeting process in identifying, so that we'll be able to coordinate and incorporate the budget and efforts and capacity, which enhance socio and economic development, which integrates and incorporates the province's demographic priority needs and impact on livelihoods. Then the adoption of a decision-making and associated process needed to make this shift in the short to medium to long term, and to not to lose the existing effective developments in the pipeline. And then to continue on slide 21, there's inclusion and redress of backlogs in existence through the prioritization process and decision-making remedies, in short, to a new strategy of district development model. The roles, relationships and responsibilities between national, province, departments and entities, including SOEs and municipalities, is key, because that's what it will make sure that will enhance and will make it a success if we identify the relationships and the responsibilities, and we will work in these areas. Then the effectiveness of integration and implementation of the current IDPs, special development plans and departmental business plans. With all this, Honorable Chair, the last slide, what are we saying? What is our commitment? The Department of Human Settlement is currently functioning in an environment of extensively increasing housing backlogs and needs, which will take many years. In our estimate, it will take more than 30 years to resolve the housing backlog with the current allocations. They fully support the drive of the DDM and its objectives, and believe it is the way to go to meet the government's vision and goals. And we also believe that the DDM will not only go a long way in the poverty alleviation goals, but also speed up service delivery. Honorable Chair and honorable members, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we have water and sanitation, DG and DM? DG and DM.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. We, from Water and Sanitation, we've got the regional head of Water and Sanitation in Eastern Cape, Ms. Portia Makanya. She will be leading us in making that presentation. And I'm going to hand over to Portia, Chair, so that we don't waste our time, your time.
Okay.
Portia.
Thank you, DG. First, let me greet all the honorable members at the portfolio committee and the deputy ministers and everyone. Good afternoon. I am guided by the screen in front of us. The presentation is controlled by Babalwa. If it can be projected so that I can start. Chairperson, just to mention, we are currently connected with Amatola Water Board as our entity in the province. So there is a joint, this is a joint presentation, although they will add at a later stage their specific involvement in terms of primary business. I would largely touch on the secondary business of the water board, which is grant funded. I'm just waiting for the presentation to reflect, but in the meantime, Chair, we've got a situational analysis, and I'll be very short. I think we're given 20 minutes together. Can we move to the next slide, Babalo? Just an overview of the Eastern Cape, Chair. We have the two metros, the Nelson Mandela and the BCM, which are guided by DSG, the first slide, Babalo. And we also have those districts, Alfredo and all the rural districts, which also, Chair, I think it's a point to be made to acknowledge that they are part of those priority
districts that were pronounced as priority districts across the country. The numbers have since grown, but they were in the first portions, the 21 districts that were pronounced earlier, they are part of that. So point to note that it is those districts that are struggling currently in terms of resources as well as backlogs that they still have to deal with. Just as the Eastern Cape, we've got a mixture of both reliance on groundwater and surface water. And with the current developments in terms of climate change, those are severely impacted on. However, we have 15 perennial rivers that we know they are sure to flow right through the year, but let me not spend time on this check. Just to give just an overview. Can we go to the targets? As I said, the Eastern Cape is largely a rural province. In terms of its water services backlog, these are the backlogs checked. We can see the color coding, which red would reflect those that are still having a long way to go, that are really struggling. And what this essentially means, Chair, is that there are households in the Eastern Cape that has never tasted any form of water supply infrastructure or formal sanitation, those that are still competing with animals in terms of raw water sources. So despite all the changes and all other challenges that are happening, currently the Eastern Cape has got those households, that backlog that needs to be looked at. In general, for water, there's 21% of Eastern Cape households that still lack water, as well as 29% that still lack sanitation. And if you look at the most green ones at the bottom are those previously advantaged municipalities in the previous dispensation that they belong to the former republic, as it were, during that, during the apartheid era. And mainly they have very limited backlogs. Those are the sub-apartment district municipalities. However, I'm making this point, Chair, because in terms of financial resource allocation, the formula largely look at backlogs. And we know those municipalities in Sarah Apartment has since grown. Therefore, the funding that would go to those municipalities are more linked to your backlogs. Your Makana would be raised as an area we all know is an area of concern, and they would get minimal allocations to address the current problems that they are having. But the others still have a huge backlog, your Jokabi, your Alfredo and others. Can we move to the next? Slide. Despite that, Chair, as I've said, there are changing climate changes impacts. We have hotspots. We are having our backlogs, yes, but even those resources that those communities that are still struggling, they then hit by the drought impact. We have circled the hotspots in the area. And the small block in the right-hand corner will tell you which are these areas, your Jogabi, which has largely recovered in the recent months, except for Burgersdorp, where they have had a dam failure there. They are currently addressing that, working with the department, and that has lowered the storage capacity. But in general, Chair, the areas that are listed in the block are those areas of our hotspots where drought has been declared as a disaster, and they are currently having some level of funding relief, although the initial requested resources were not fully allocated. The green ones and the green font will tell you where there are restrictions in terms of irrigation. We've got the around the Nelson Mandela Metro, your Koha areas, and you've got your Klippert system and your Sandile case Kama. That's where irrigators are restricted. But all where it is circled, the dam levels are very low. You've got Graafreinet, as we know that the Mweba Dam there is currently hit. So I'll just pass, but this is just a snapshot of what the current challenge is in terms of water resource availability. Chair, then the next slide is also to say what are the municipal plans in terms of dealing with the issues that I raised earlier, both the resources as well as dealing with the issues of climate change. Chair, we are guided by the Water Services Development Plans, and as we know, Chair, and I think this is a point that needs to be made, that in terms of financial years of municipalities that only starts in July every year, ours start in April. So the plans for 2021 are more indicative until the IDP processes is finalized and the budgets are signed off, and then those become actual projects that are budgeted for. But we can see where they are in terms of the water services development plans, which are part of the IDP processes chain. But I think, Chair, just to look at the bars that are there, and I think later on in the presentation, this will reveal itself in terms of the current issue in Eastern Cape, without painting a bleak picture. But Chair, these are municipal strategic self-assessment, so that when we want to go in supporting these municipalities as different departments and as different governments that are provincial, local, we are able to be guided where they are. They assess themselves in these functional areas which are core for their business share. It is also linked to the back to basic principles. I will just highlight the first one and move on thereafter. The first bar has been highlighted as very red, and that is financial management. I'm still on the previous slide. The first bar is the financial management and asset management. That talks to the reliability of the current infrastructure that is there, Chair. Also in issues of revenue collection, lower down in that bar, you will see that a large part of our municipalities are really vulnerable in that state. But on the top left corner, you will see the vulnerability status. And I think I will just leave that for the honorable members to maybe read later for themselves. But just so you understand that what the color coding means. Chair, we also governed, this is more about how we, this institutional arrangements. Amatola Water Board is where we have in that circle of the red dotted lines, roughly. That is where Amatola is gazetted to operate. And we know the expectation is that Amatola Water should be our water board assisting us in the Eastern Cape Province. We are having the color-coded areas as our districts. But then those districts, there's this other bold line that goes across the district and cuts one of the districts in the middle. That is our water resource management area. That means our CMA, when established, will be responsible for what is within the bigger portion of the Eastern Cape. On the northern part of that, the yellow, that is governed under the Free State. We know the areas of Sexprate, Lady Grey, and all of those areas, their water resource management functions are actually handled by our Eastern Cape, Free State Regional Office. And on the western side, you will see an overlap to Western Cape. Our office there in that water management area would look at that, and we would do some of theirs. So there's that misalignment, Chair. And I'm raising this particular point because Amatola Water, you can see where they are. Move. Because it's got implications later. Move. And this is the total water resource availability that we already have committed to those sectors, Chair, and I will not dwell much into this. But safe to say that given the picture that I've painted before in terms of the rural nature of our municipalities and the revenue base, this is the resultant current debt that we are having. Despite the backlogs that we need to be able to eradicate, we're having these that we have to deal with. This is the debt. Although we have sectors, our domestic sector is largely hit. We can see Amatola Water Board as the first one. It is the one that really has got a huge debt towards the department, and it is also because of the effect that the municipalities that it serves is having on it. If the water board is not paid, it affects us directly, and that is the current health status in terms of debt by these municipalities across the province. Move. Move. Chair, in terms of the district development model and what we all need, I think this process will assist us, particularly in this slide. This is in a nutshell what the requirements are across all districts. And sectors have been part of this: human settlements, environmental and economic development in the Eastern Cape, the municipalities, the forestry sector. All of them have been part of this process, although they are not all ready with their own provincial master plans, but these have been factored in. This is the total requirement of the Eastern Cape as it was estimated. On the fourth block, we see 101 billion. That was the amount needed to eradicate the backlog. That means that every household have access at least to tap water. The top bar is the backlogs. I won't go back. You know the figures. I've projected that. But on the second one, Chair, is what the volumes needed by each district municipality, and we up to 2035, and that is quantified. And then the third block, Chair, says from the water that is needed, how many projects, how many interventions are needed. That WSIA is water supply intervention areas per district municipality, the storage in terms of megaliters per day, the bulk pipelines that are needed per district, the reticulation lines in terms of kilometers, both pipelines and bulk and reticulation, and yard connections. That is what is needed per district municipality, Chair. And that is the cost per household at the bottom slide. But then on the last slide, Chair, we're looking at current funding plans. I think the previous presenter has made reference to the funding allocations that we're having and the limitations that it gives. That tells us, Chair, that on the left corner, it will take 31 years. If the current funding trend doesn't change, it will take 31 years for us to look at to eradicate the backlog. Because the yellow there is what is needed per district municipality in terms of billion rands. And you will see when you're looking at the MTF allocations, it's far less that we're getting. This is the sanitation component. The previous was water. This is the sanitation component in terms of all of those districts and the number of interventions that will be required. You can skip. Chair, and again, as I've said, this district development model is going to assist us in then maturing in terms of planning, where we have all of these requirements to say which ones must be on hold or put on, and then the rest. But as the presenter, I will not go back there. Owatambo has been the pilot. Our projects are all there, and all of these districts, they've got the draft master plans that have been developed to be able to inform that. We are participating in those processes, and ministers have been deployed to these municipalities along with MECs. And a draft dashboard is ready to be launched, and it's because of lockdown that we are still not there. But Chair, this one talks then to the grant allocation and the functions. I'm not going to waste time here, but the different colors of the bars tell us what the functions, what those grant covers. We have also at the far left right-hand corner of that, I've got 3 listings there. Those are the implementing agents. We've got Amatola Water Board implementing, we've got the Water Services Authorities, and we've got the department. Amatola Water Board is also not just implementing, but assisting us, Chair, to assist municipalities where they are failures in terms of operations, although that has got, I think also, let me also mention that the size of the block also reflects the size of the allocation that comes to the province. From the 3.4 billion for 2021, Chair, is those are the sizes, and I know the department is more than often expected to provide the bulk supply. However, that is the challenge that we are currently also dealing with, in that the size of the bulk infrastructure grant versus the requirement does not really meet the demand. And as you can see, compared to me, 25% of our RBIC and 60% of MIGs was coming to the province, even though MIG is supposed to be funding bulk as well. And I'm very optimistic that the district development model will assist us in combining these grants, because we're playing in the space of bulk together, although regional bulk by its definition is supposed to be covering those municipalities or those schemes that are crossing municipalities, and MIG are bulk within municipalities. And Chair, if we can move to the next slide. This is the investment, it's the same, it's just a breakdown of the previous slide, Chair, of those grants. We see RBIC and MIG as to how it is then distributed across the municipalities, and that is the allocations for 2021, and we can see the investment per district municipality. Again, Sarah Bartman is if you look at MIG, they are very thin on that grant, and we can see where the backlogs are. But Kabi, its projects are largely on planning, and when it comes to RBIC, but that is the total allocations currently. Chair, this is the trend throughout the MTF. And that is why we had made predictions that it's going to be a struggle to eradicate these backlogs immediately. And these grants, as it is there reflected, it's then also grants that are direct to municipalities like your RBIC. Once we have that RBIC grant, some of it goes straight to the municipality together with VISIC, and some of it goes through the water board to those municipalities. And there's MIG, but the bulk of this funding gets directly to municipality as transfers. Can we move? And those are the number of projects for each of these grants that we are doing in the next slide. Chair, you asked us to talk about wastewater treatment works as well. Those are the number of wastewater treatment works across those municipalities. And the first block represents the number of failures. I think we have seen in the media these failures, and I think in many parts of the country, we have been tracking the number of failures that we have picked up on these wastewater treatment works. And the action taken is the bars below, where we have followed the regulatory protocol according to what is guiding us. And those are the non-compliance notices that we've given in red, and that is the responses that we're getting in terms of the blue. So some would respond, some would respond with an action plan, and ultimately action will be taken. But from those, there are the ones that we are now taking the further step, which is much harsh in terms of these repeated failures. You would know that, Christiane, there has been a court case open, and these are following that route, Chair, where we have given up. But as again, Amakana would be appearing there. So it calls again, like the Musa I've referred to earlier, on all of those that have got a responsibility to support these municipalities to look into that. We know COPTA and the province is looking at other avenues in terms of supporting this through your BFI and other grants that are there. Let's move. Chair, the next slide, we were then just giving a breakdown per district in terms of the grants that we are having for this financial year. There is a breakdown of these grants.
We're left with 2 minutes.
Yes, Chair. And I'm done, Chair. In
2 minutes.
Yeah, yes, Chair. Basically, I am done, Chair, with the presentation, because what is following now is a breakdown of what I've already covered per municipality. If you can just move to the next. Yeah. I am done, Chair. It's basically just those slides, and we can move just to, but what I would want to highlight here, Chair, there are a number of interventions that we are doing under RBIC, especially in the hotspots area. We would know Makana, the James Lane Hunt, Amatola Water is in that space. Ndlambe, Amatola Water is in that space. Capewood, Amatola Water is in that space. At the Presidential Intervention Project in Mtata, Amatola Water is in that space. And I think they can just talk to the areas of operation. We also have found ourselves under Nelson Mandela, where the largest intervention has been in terms of Nooitgedacht, and that project is progressing well, also to be completed in the next year. Many of the areas that I've listed, Chair, they are also going to be unlocking housing development as it is there, and our talks with housing development also informed where we are putting a lot of pressure, Chair. Amatola Water can perhaps just talk about what they are doing in terms of their operations. I've already covered the secondary for them, Chair. It's just maybe to say where they are increasing capacity, but I think they also made their presentation recently to the portfolio committee, which would be like more of a repetition of what they presented already. But yeah.
No, we're not going to give Amatola to present. The time is not allowing us to do that. We're going to Eastern Cape. They'll wait. If there'll be the questions, then they'll answer the questions. Can we proceed? Eastern Cape and Northern Cape? MEC?
Can you hear us?
The MEC has disappeared, Chair.
Afternoon, Chairperson.
Afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're audible.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson, and afternoon to our Honorable Deputy Ministers, MEC Peters, and also the members of the committee and management of the department. Chairperson, I think that the Northern Cape is known for its vastness, the biggest province in the country, 20 times bigger than Gauteng province. The population of 1.2 million people. But also, Chair, the vastness of our province pose serious challenges for development in this sector. We have 5 district municipalities and 26 local municipalities that we are serving with high levels of unemployment. We are sitting with a housing backlog of plus minus 70,000 units. Our budget is just over 300 million for human settlements, and we have to service the people of the Northern Cape to the best of our ability. We know that we have serious budget constraints, national, countrywide, based on a number of other challenges. But I think the issue of budget poses a challenge for us in terms of service delivery. But I think also, Chairperson, it's important to reflect on the 26 million, and the Deputy Minister was raising the issue about the 26 million that we lost to national. But we submitted our recovery plan as a promise to national, but I think our recovery plan was not submitted, and that posed a challenge in terms of the 26 million that we lost. Now we are sitting with a challenge that because it was committed projects, we still owe the service providers. A Chairperson, also with us in our merge is the Department of Water Affairs, because we are 2 departments in the case of the province. They are reporting to national water and sanitation. But in terms of our work, we are working closely to make sure that we render services across the province and there's synergy between the 2 departments. But Chairperson, let me take this opportunity to hand over to the HOD, who will take us through our presentation. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, MEC. You're welcome. HOD, you have 20 minutes.
Presentations
Thanks, Chairperson. Let me convey my greetings to the Chairperson, honourable members of the Portfolio Committee, and also acknowledge the presence of the MEC and also the two DMs, including our Director General there, Mr. Bulel. The presentation that I'm going to talk to, it focuses on the 2021 HSDG as per request from Portfolio Committee that we should be appraised on the HSDG processes. So, and then also the second part of it will focus on the DDM, but the DDM mainly focuses on the projects per district, per municipality in terms of the budget. Yes, in terms of the institutional arrangements, we are on the same page like the Eastern Cape, but I will explain that when I come to that, Chairperson. In terms of the table of content here, obviously it will be the purpose, the analysis of the situation, the introduction, the different programs that were having, the targets and budgets, the risk and challenges, then the emergency commitment due to COVID, Chairperson. The purpose, I think the MEC has already spoken to it, but based on the background, Chairperson, or the situation analysis, that just a depiction of how the Northern Cape looks like out of the South African government system in terms of the unitary, or in terms of the provincial administration. You can look at it, Chairperson, that now it's very vast, very big in terms of proximity, moving from one town to the other, you have to travel big, and also part of the HSDG also, lot of the money gets into the transportation of the material from one town to the other. This is just the background that I wanted the Honourable Portfolio Committee members to take note of in terms of the challenges that we are faced with. In terms of the hectares, it's 37 million. In terms of the diameter, you can even look at Gauteng. It's even bigger than Gauteng in terms of the geographic composition. But the population obviously is 1.1. Hence, per capita cost, sometimes it's a difficult, arithmetic calculation that must be done to allocate the resources to the Northern Cape, Chairperson. Per district, that's how it looks like in terms of numbers. As you can see there, Chairperson, in terms of the spread, majority of the population is well spread in the Francis Park with 32% of the population. However, then it will go from one district to the other, being followed by ZFM, and then from there, the next one then is John Talogai, so in terms of the JTG, then Pixley, then the last one will be in Namakwa, in terms of the geographic composition. So, but obviously the demand is very high compared to what we can be able to afford as a province, per capita, in terms of the amount of money also that we are receiving. The MEC has already spoken to that. Recovery plan was submitted, but it was not approved. However, now we are sitting with the backlog in terms of the accruals out of that amount that was taken from the provincial allocation. But for this financial year, 2021, Chairperson, that's the amount that has been issued or allocated to us. And then out of that amount, we need to ring fence the amount that will, for the 7 million, that will go towards informal settlement upgrade program. So fortunately, our HSDG business plan has been approved, Chairperson. That's what I can confirm. The business plan also caters the following chapters: is the OPSCAP, is title deeds, NHBRC, the accreditation process in terms of different municipalities per level, in terms of the functioning and responsibility to assist, especially at the beneficiary list management, emergency housings or rectification, and the remedial. We also cover out of that 319 Chairperson. Top structures must come out of that. The integrated residential development program must come out of that. Individuals must come out of that. Rural housing must also come out of that. CRUs must come out of the 319 million.
Military vets also, we need to accommodate them also out of the very same baseline that we have received. The finance link individual subsidy program, first, we need to also accommodate. Out of the same 390 chairperson, we need to serve sites also. We need to also do the town planning. So based on that amount, as you can see, chairperson, it's a lot. But what we receive normally, what we are normally saying is that now it is not enough to make sure that now we render the services across the province to ensure that now the demand gets addressed, especially at the top structure level. In terms of the breakdown, chairperson, of that amount of money that we have received, or the budget, OPSCAP 13 million will go to that, title deeds 958,000 rand. Also making sure that now because we do have a team of conveyancers, 38 of them that are assisting us with conveyancing through the severe general registration of the towns. So those are things that we are tackling as a province with the limited resources at our disposal. NHPRC, we have to accommodate at 2.2 million. The accreditation is 4 million, which goes to different municipalities and also the locals and the district. Emergency housing, we made provision for 4 million. In the report, you will see how the COVID, for example, out of the emergency budget that we ring-fenced, the impact thereof on our programs. Obviously, it will have impact on the indicators and targets that will have to be reduced. Remedial, we have ring-fenced an amount of 8 million. Obviously, it doesn't come with an allocation from national. Based on the policy, you need to look at the 10% of what you receive from national. Then you need to come up with a remedial. For your information, chairperson, we've got close to 14,000 houses that must be rectified or remedial work be done. You can imagine how much will it go. For what amount of money that rectification will go. And then IRDP, in terms of the housing, the top structures there, in terms of the breakdown, the target, it's obviously it's units 49 for that amount of money, 10.5 million. And then individual also, we've got 28 of them, rural housing that must be accommodated, because we do have the area of JJTG with close to 200 informal settlements and also villages there. Obviously, rural municipality like Jomurolong, we need to service them also. Community residential areas, units, we've got 119 that is planned at an amount of 63 million. Military vets, we've got 6, because there's a challenge also in terms of allocation of land, where the military vets would like to be located. And then the first is 20. We acknowledge that it's an area that we are not doing well because of the four banks. Also, whenever you go to the banks for credit worthiness, obviously some of the applicants, we receive numerous applications, but at the end of the day, only few gets approved by the 4 banks, chairperson. The sites that must be served, as you can see, the chairperson, we are targeting in terms of the sites 2,329 sites that must be serviced, so that now we can be able to improve and ensure that now people get into houses where there are already services or with the service site, also opening it up also for the local municipalities so that they can be able to bring in the gap market, also the high income bracket, applicants or residents. So that is our target, the chairperson, making sure that now we deliver on the services so that then after a year or 2, then top structures can come. Obviously, there are risks that we have identified, chairperson. Yes, as the DM indicated, that amount of money that we couldn't spend. But however, towards end of the March, there was this challenge in terms of the COVID, where contractors had to leave their sites. Obviously, some of the money now had to be diverted into other programs to address the COVID. But also, which means that now when construction resumes, sites must be re-established to ensure that now we move. Consideration to extend completion dates of the contracts also to ensure that now they can be able to deliver on those sites that have been planned. Targets for units and sites not achieved, because we find that now already we have spent few rands and cents on COVID. That will also affect on our targets. Not forgetting the previous allocation of the previous year, 1920, we had an amount of 470 million. We took a cut from 470 million right up to 319 million, based on the national cut that the sector experienced, I think of close to 6.4 billion rand, that human settlement was affected. But we are hoping and trusting that now, whatever that we have received, we will make the best out of it, chairperson. As I've said, budget used to fund emergency projects through the National Treasury and also Disaster Management Act. Obviously, the allocated baseline reduced by spending on these projects. This will impact severely on our targets. Revised business plan obviously will have to be considered as time goes on, so that we can be able to make sure that now we move, we spend based on the allocation. In terms of the emergency commitment and expenditure, Chairperson, we looked at the total commitment of 14.9 million as per needs in the province, the hotspots that we had. For example, the first hotspot that we had was in Kandla, informal settlement. It's an area where there are no services, for example, sanitation. We had to come in there. The contractor is still on site there. He's about to complete 500 households to make sure that now they get or they receive sanitation, alternative one, instead of the waterborne. In Kandla informal settlement also we had to assist with provision of water tanks. In the same breath also water and sanitation department also assisted in the very same area with the water tanks. Lerato Park also there was a need for the cistern pipes. As I'm talking now, the hotspots area in terms of the prof joints and the provincial command council, it's increasing. Now other regions, other districts now, there's an increase in terms of the level of infection, positive cases, which means that now the focus will move from Kandla now to the other areas. You can imagine, Chairperson, what will be the impact of that on our little amount that we have received. So without any waste of time, Chairperson, that's what is covered under the HSDG. But also just to touch on the TRUs, we do have the TRUs also, Chairperson, that we have identified per area, per town. We will give them later because we missed that item in terms of the TRUs. So we do have temporary residential units that we have identified in terms of the households that we have in terms of the density. For example, in Soplaiki, the Francis Bartier, we do have China Square, we do have Santa Center, Rhythm City. That's part of the discussion in terms of the Human Settlement Command Technical Committee, where now we did table and finally we are waiting for the MINMEC to give an endorsement in terms of those areas that we have identified. Then post this MINMEC approval or consideration, then we'll be able to update the Chairperson on which areas have been approved finally by the MINMEC. But obviously it comes at a cost, because now we need to cut somewhere so that we can be able to cover that, Chairperson. So if you allow me, Chairperson, the second presentation, we are going to go to the DDM in terms of the HSDG, Chairperson. Due to the time factor, as I've said, we are only going to zoom on the human settlement projects as per the DDM. We do have all the 5 districts. The cabinet in the province has agreed that now we will launch in the Francis Park and also launch in the JTG. But however, all the 5 districts, they are going to participate. That's the agreement of the provincial cabinet. I'm just trying to open the presentation here, Chairperson, so that we can be able to. Yes. My apologies, Chairperson, we just want to get the IT here too. Right. This is the DDM, what's up now? Yeah, good, thank you, yeah. Thanks. Is it fine? All right, thanks, Chairperson. We are going to look at the projects per district, per municipality. The institutional arrangements that my colleague spoke to from Eastern Cape, we do have those institutional arrangements, but due to time factor, we propose that now we should just focus ourselves on the projects as the Chairperson requested or as per the letter. However, DDM is there. It's coordinated from the Premier's office, supported by the MEC at the provincial level, also co-chaired by myself and the DG of the province. We do have structures that are there even at up to district level. Profiles are there. We do have the profiles. We will be meeting next week to revisit all those profiles that we have submitted to make sure that now we incorporate the COVID issues. So we are on par with the developments. Champions at the provincial level through the Premier, MECs have been identified per district, per municipality to make sure We are just waiting on the list from the president on who are the deployees that will come in soon. But we are ready, just a matter of now updating or aligning the current or existing profiles with the COVID chairperson. In terms of the top slicing chairperson, as you can see there, the whole province, we talk, I think I've spoken to all those project description. That now obviously the budget is there, is 23 million rands. That will go to only those ones that have been listed there, chairperson. And then you look at the HSDG, we do have what is known as the mining towns. We've got 6 mining towns, namely Khamagara, Khasikhonyana, Jomorolong, Kaima, Katelopele, and Tantaban. Only in the mining towns, chairperson, we have received an amount of 90 million rand that will go towards the mining towns, out of the very same amount again that I've spoken to of 319 million. So it's a challenge to ensure that now you cut this cake in pieces so that now where there is a demand we are able to service. But we've got this mining town budget that we have received, chairperson. As you can see there, it's going towards the feasibility study, IRDP in terms of the servicing of sites, the amount of money there, 62 million. Khamagara, it has received 68 million rand. And Khasikhonyana there, it's there is no amount under Khasikhonyana for now. And then Jomorolong there, it goes to 15 million. And then from the Kaima, it has got 5 million. Katelopele, 1 million, that will go also towards upgrading informal settlement through purchasing of the land through Department of Public Works. We would like to request your intervention in that regard, chairperson, that it's government land, it's public works land, that we are still waiting for public works at provincial level, also through national office to assist us to acquire that prime land. Because the challenge is that from the area of Katelopele right up to Kuruman in the JTG, the area is mainly dolomitic. So this one, the area that we've identified here, there is no dolomite. The tests have indicated that. But the challenge is that the issue of the title deed through public works, we will request your intervention there, chairperson. Tantabani, that amount of money, and then all 80, I mean, in terms of the various towns and villages, individuals, it goes to that 835,000, chairperson. All in all, the mining town budget rounds up to 90 million, 90.5 million, chairperson. In terms of the HSDG, chairperson, as you can see there, 73 million of the budget. Because when you look at the first slide that I've spoken to, Francis Park has got a lot of, the population, there's high growth. In terms, for example, there's a university now, Kimberley, for example, is the capital city. So there is a high influx in terms of people moving towards Kimberley. Hence, there is a need to ensure that now we develop the rural areas to minimize the movement or migration of people from the rural areas to the urban centers. So that's the breakdown, chairperson, in terms of out of the HSDG 2021, 73 million will go towards the Francis Park. Per town there, Kimberley, Delport's Whoop, which is under the Khatlong municipality. Those are the chapters that will have to be serviced based on what the HSDG approved plan is informing us on. Then you go to ZFM.
Your time is up, HOT.
Yeah, so we do have the other reasons, chairperson. As I've said, we wanted to also save time, but that's the breakdown per town, per municipality, in terms of the DDM, what needs to be done based on the DDM for the 2021, chairperson. On that note, chairperson, let me drop my anchor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, HOT. Can we have a department?
No, Chairperson, thank you very much. The team will just do a quicker presentation now because as we have given us that particular time so that we can demonstrate how in the APP we try to take into account the issues of water and sanitation to support the province, like the MEC has dealt with some of those issues. Let the team just go straight to those key issues, Chair, so that we can manage your time to allow members to engage us. Thank you.
Can we start? We have presentation, will follow it.
Okay, right. Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to the DMs and all the other members of the Portfolio Committee. The presentation is a little bit long, but we will quickly look at the purpose, the situation analysis, and then an overview of the 5 districts implementation plan for the Northern Cape.
Sir, you have to talk to it because we don't have that luxury of time. We have only 20 minutes.
Yes, now we will quickly run through it. The purpose is to brief the Portfolio Committee on the Department of Water and Sanitation Northern Cape District Implementation Plan. The situation, we have already given some of this information, so I'm not going to repeat all of that, but it's the largest province with a small population. If you look at the water situation, there's 2 provincial rivers running through the Northern Cape, the Orange and the Vaal, and they bring about 97% of the water that is being used in the Northern Cape for especially irrigation and domestic industrial water. There's 439 towns in the Northern Cape and settlements, and of them 314 or 72% are relying only on groundwater, 116 on surface water, and then 9 is on a mix of surface and groundwater. Okay. There's 5 districts, as already been mentioned, and 26 local municipalities, and all of them are water service providers in the Northern Cape. Number of households in formal areas with no access to water, there's a total of 10,727, and most of them are situated in the northeastern part of the province, in JTG, Francis Baard, and then also in the ZF Macau district. In informal, the figure is 10,175. So bringing the total households without access to water to roughly 21,000 households. During the past lockdown period, all that areas were supplied with tanks, 884 tanks, and 54 water tankers are currently supplying the tanks with water. The sanitation backlog is much higher, and you can see on formal stands there's 34,464 with a huge backlog of 21,726 in the JTG and mainly in Joe Morolong and Gasegondiana municipalities. And then on the formal 18,914, bringing the total roughly around 53,000 households with lack of access to sanitation. The water services planning or the water service development plans that the municipalities provide as part of their IDP, if we look at the 26 municipalities, the information on the water services are good to fairly good. The comprehensive overview of the water supply components are mostly fair. Master plans and strategies with solutions was done for all 26. Their projects was captured, but they don't supply yearly reviews of the WSTPs or annual performance report. Only one CRTEMBA is doing it. If we look at the municipal strategic self-assessment, then you can see more than half of the municipalities are extremely vulnerable with a high number of high and only a few moderate. So overall, our municipalities are highly vulnerable. And some of the things that they are saying is they got technical skills lack, wastewater and environment safety regulations, financial asset management is a problem, technical staff capacity, the numbers, water conservation, demand management, infrastructure.
My brother, let's try to move towards what are the key ways of supporting them, because the status quo, Comrade Vas, the MEC knows about it, so that from a planning point of view, they can see, because that's what the committee will want us to see before they cut us.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I will quickly run through that. High-risk water treatment plants is in Soplaiki, in Katu, Olifantshoek, Hamagara, Kuruman, in Gasegondiana, Yankemtorp, Hartswater, and Pokwani, and Douglas in Sianguma, and Barkley West. There's quite a number of enforcement activities that are taking place, from court interdicts to individual issuing of directives. If we look at the infrastructure need of the province, that is a summary of the funding needed to address all the backlogs and projects, and we sit with a total around about 27.5 billion, which is divided between the 5 districts as in the table. The proposed project list for the Northern Cape during 2018, we have prioritized, starting from the municipalities giving us their priorities to a district level, to a provincial level, and the 50 highest priority projects is in the next 2 slides, with the status either in construction, procurement, planning, or complete on your right-hand side. It is funded throughout all different grants, RBIC, WSIC, MIC, as well as sometimes SLP funding from the mines. So there's the 50 projects. Overview of the districts. Okay, to start off with the administration, the Northern Cape have 31 vacant funded posts. That include the post of the provincial head and the regional CFO that is vacant. There's 9 OSD posts, engineers and technicians and scientists, 7 middle and senior management posts, and 13 low-level posts. The infrastructure per district and per grant. For regional bulk infrastructure, there is 10 regional bulk projects, and it's divided between the 5 districts as shown. For WSIC, 28 small water services infrastructure projects, with mostly of them taking place in JTG, 13 of them. Then there's still a bucket eradication project in Sianguma, where 596 buckets will be eradicated. For the enforcement, 93 small wastewater treatment plants will be assessed during the year, according to the Green Door. Francis Baard District Municipality, under regional bulk, the Warrington water treatment plant is already in construction, or the appointment was completed, and there is funding available for them. So Plaiki, there is the construction of the Carter's Glen pump station and the Homevale wastewater treatment plant that needs repairs. Dikgatlong VIP toilets, and in Yankemtorp it is internal sewer for Papierstad, as well as Yankemp and Hartswater feasibility studies. This is the project list, the main 30 projects for the district of Francis Baard. Also on your right hand side with the status, most of them are in construction or in a planning stage. For JTG, there is the got 2 bulk water service feasibility study in IRS that will be completed, and the driving force behind this project is a housing project that needs to take place in this mining town. Then in Joe Morolong, there's a number of 6 where extension of water projects will take place in some of the villages, as well as the refurbishment of especially boreholes infrastructure that is not in a working condition. In Khasakanyana, there's 40,000 also for some of the towns, extension of the water reticulation, and in Kamagara, Olifantshoek, is a project to supplement the water with groundwater. Then under drought relief, the Northern Cape has an allocation of 300 million, and a couple of places in Joe Morolong where the drought hit them, 20 million was allocated to that specific villages. That is the list of 30 towns and places for JTG. In the Namakwa district, Brandvlei bulk water scheme is in construction and will be completed by the end of this year, and there is 31 million for the completion. Namakwa, Richtersveld, Kabush, there's 10 million under the water services infrastructure grant. Namakoi, the Namabib wastewater treatment plant. Kamiesberg, there's Karis, Kamieskroon reticulation for sewage. Keis and Klipfontein evaporation ponds, and in Hantam, there's 24 for Calvinia bulk water scheme. Under the drought, there's a number of places in the Kamiesberg and the whole western part of the province is still under severe drought, but there's a number of projects taking place currently in Kamiesberg. In Richtersveld, there is the refurbishment of the one borehole at 15 miles, as well as in Calvinia, the equipping of 3 boreholes for 21 million, and then source development in Neelsville and Middelpos, bringing the total for Calvinia specifically to the 21 plus the 24, which is 45 million for the drought in Calvinia. That is the project list for the Namakwa. In Pixley Kaseme, Van Wyksvlei bulk water supplies and procurement, there's 67 million. The Bridgetown oxidation pond is almost completed. I think it's the last 2-3 months. That is also a bucket eradication project still. Ubuntu, it's a replacement of the asbestos cement pipeline, as well as in Karreeberg. There's also the replacement of asbestos cement pipeline. In Siatemba, it's the upgrading of the Priska wastewater treatment plant, and in Sianuma, it's the Bongani outflow sewer, as well as the Campbell bulk water supply, which is both related to bucket eradication. Drought relief in Pixley, there is funding in Van Wyksvlei for the refurbishment of the desalination plant, as well as the transport of water. Then in Stridenberg and Kraankuil, there is also 12.5 million for the drilling and equipping of 9 boreholes. That is the total list of 30 priority projects in the Pixley Kaseme. The last district, ZF Macau, there's the Uppington wastewater treatment plant, Kameelmond, which is in procurement, and there's 57 or almost 58 million available. Then the Kakamas wastewater treatment and the water treatment works, there would be a feasibility and the implementation readiness study done, and all of this is the drivers is housing, as well as bucket eradication in the Uppington area. Under the water services infrastructure, upgrading of the
You've got 1 minute, sir.
Okay, I will be less
1
than
minute.
that. Yes, in Rietfontein, the wastewater treatment plant in Meer, Kakamas wastewater treatment plant feasibility study, and the refurbishment of the Daniel Scale sewer pump station. That is the list of projects in the ZF Macau, and that is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Two question per presentation.
Hello, Chairperson.
Honorable Tseki. Honorable Tseki.
As I speak now?
Yes. Question,
Okay,
two question per presentation.
Yeah. Two questions, yeah, Chairperson.
We can't see Comrade Tseki.
I'm next to the window here, and that reflection of a window.
You are eating time, Honorable Tseki.
I'm just trying to do administration here. Sorry. Chairperson, thank you very much, Chair. I think, Chair, just an introduction or just straight to the question. Are you there, Chair?
Yes.
I think let me welcome the report, Chair. For both provinces, Chair, what is their future programs in relation to sites versus site services versus the units, completed units? Because I think both provinces have got enough land which they can use to give out more sites than units, completed units. And then, Chair, on the title deeds, I think, Chair, we should all be worried. This pre-1994, it can't continue forever. Comrades, we are in 26 years since we voted. I think there must be a clear plan for us to complete this. It can't continue. It's a serious concern, Chair. And I think the department must tell us exactly what is their plan to can resolve this issue. On the issue of water, when you were saying two questions, Chair, you are saying two per water and per province, I hope. On the water, Chair, let me declare that I'm from Eastern Cape, a place called Stakespruit, Herschel. And I want to say thank you to the director, Comrade Poshia. We were together in Hohoveng in the Palmit-Sinku municipality, which is under Jodka. And indeed, that project went well. Of course, here and there are challenges. I did pass my gratitude to the minister on the project we did. But when you listen to both human settlement and water, Chair, They are talking about the backlog can only be completed between 31 and 41 years. Again, Chair, let's sit down and see how best we can do these programs. Among the solution is this issue of the site services that can assist. On the Northern Cape, Chair, I think the rectification of houses, 14,000, that's too much. The question is that what happened with those companies? Were they just left and gone, or they were the right word when you blacklist, were they blacklisted, or what happened? What is the consequence management in relation to those 14,000? To me, it's too much. And then on the water, it's interesting. We were told of 600 buckets to be removed. I think we were told last year, July, that by December they will be completed. Now the department or the province is saying their plan is to remove 596. So are we hearing that only 4 buckets systems were removed? It's worrisome there. And on the last one, Chair, on my side, the department or the province is reporting that 76% rely on groundwater. I must say, Chair, that is commendable. And probably the department or the province can give us some lessons for other provinces. Because I understand the huge and the vastness of the province to move pipelines from one town to the other, or from the reservoir. But this is, to me, this is a very important groundbreaking project that can assist other provinces in terms of the groundwater. Thank you, Chair. I've left many areas, Chair, because of the limitations. But thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Musala. Honorable Musala. Honorable Tafel. Honorable Tafel.
Hello, Chairperson. Honorable Musala is not here in the meeting. He left the meeting. We have Honorable Sieko Sengwe and Mukhotu.
We have Mukhotu.
Yes, Chairperson, I'm around. Can I pose a question, Chairperson?
Yes,
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. I'll start. This question is directed to on page 5, where they talk about approved grants,
under the Human Settlement Development Grant, an allocation of 1,532,000 has been approved for 8,123 houses, and then 4,000 sites, and then 5,000 title deeds. Can the Eastern Cape province give us a breakdown of how this 1,532 million is going to be allocated to 8,123 units and 4,000 sites and 5,000 new title deeds? And then the next question is, what are the reasons for the 8,538 housing backlog of which took place since 1998? And why did it take them so long to decide to address this backlog of housing, since they know very well that our poor people, are in need of houses? And then my next question is directed to Northern Cape. On page 14, they've stated that the province is talking about the challenges facing Solplaki, Homevale, and in your refurbishment planning, you intend replacing the main sewer line and the upgrading of Goha Pump Station, but you have not stated the time frame or when you are going to start and complete these projects. And then on the very same page, there are other projects that you have stated that you are going to complete during the financial year 2020 to 2021, but you haven't stated when you are going to start these projects and when you are going to complete them. It's very important that we should know, otherwise it will take forever. And then I would like to know, when is the Department of Human Settlement going to, not of Human Settlement, I meant to say the Department of Water and Sanitation, going to pay the Amatola Water Board the amount of money which they owe them, because as a result of that money which is owed to the Amatola Water Board, they are unable to carry on with other important projects. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thanks, Chair. The first question to the Department of Water and Sanitation, slide 20 speaks to the vacancies which are funded, 31 vacancies which are funded, and the department is not responding or giving us a report on when are they going to fill those vacancies. And the second matter, Chair, it's on Eastern Cape. The presentation on Eastern Cape, it's silent with regard to the emergency human settlement grant. The report that you are receiving from the Human Settlement Department nationally is that provinces are not utilizing these grants. And we know exactly that there's a need for these emergencies in all the municipalities across the country, but we don't get a sense on how much do they have and how are they going to use it. Do they have emergencies within their provinces? And the other question, I think it will go to Eastern Cape. As they are unveiling the program of delivering houses to the communities, we don't see the involvement of the National Home Builders Registration Council, because at last our people end up receiving the houses that are of substandard, and contractors also using poor quality material. So we must get a sense also on the involvement of the NHBRC. The presentation on the Eastern Cape O2, the HOD keeps on excluding the two metros, saying in terms of this program they will utilize the USDG. And to me, the program or the plan for the province should include all the programs of both local municipalities and district. We want to see integration actually in terms of the programs, but she keeps on, as she presenting, she keeps on excluding the two metros. Slide 7, Chair, which is my last question. Slide 7 of the Eastern Cape speaks to the upgrading of the informal settlement. And I think there are discrepancies, Chair. If it was possible, can we go to slide 7 of the Eastern Cape, if it's possible, on the upgrading of the informal settlement. Sarah Bartman has 34 informal settlements, and the budget allocated to that is 36 plus minus 36 million. Whereas Amatole has 26 informal settlement, and the budget allocated to that is 78 million. Whereas OR Tambo has 20 informal settlements, and the budget allocated is 69 million, which to me there are discrepancies. Can I get a response on that, Chair? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Teki, Honorable Sifai.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon to the colleagues, the leadership from provinces, and the officials. Chair, I just want to get clarity on the issue that is raised on the title deed. The title deed is an investment to a family, and it gives some dignity when you have got a paper that you claim this house, and it helps you on other needs that you can have. The 1994, pre-1994, which is 5,934, post-94, 43,058, post-2014, 23,503. It's huge. Maybe it may not be necessary today, Chairperson, that the department must tell us what are the bottlenecks. Are they legislated? What is it that makes the department not to move? So that we are able to deal with that and have an action plan, and national department intervenes on the issues together with the province. This is huge. When you listen as the department is presenting. So we need to get to this. It is huge. It's a non-performance of years, which we need to deal with. The second one, Chair, is the issue of we must appreciate the identification of projects for the military veterans, and also the logic that they have even consulted with their department, so that we have a very clear understanding that we've got legitimate people in the process. I come from Eastern Cape, Nelson Mandela. I get worried when I see a gap that no houses are going to be built for Nelson Mandela. Can I get clarity? Because Nelson Mandela is one of those metros that have some capacity to deal with some of the development programs. Where is the problem? How can we intervene and assist the metro? Because one of the issues that we understand is that there has been at another time, the Nelson Mandela had the development status, and there comes HDA, and there was an issue about HDA. We need to know so that we have a very clear intervention in terms of assisting why houses are not being built there. The other issue, Chair, is when you listen as they present, the projects are pro-rural in the planning now. But you get to know that there are projects that are outstanding, a lot of them, that have not been finalized. I just want to check is there still money for those projects? And is there capacity to deal with the other ones that are to be built? I appreciate that rural areas now are considered. Sometimes, but the issue, the capabilities of the department in terms of the old projects that have been presented and the now projects that are being planned. There is a very proactive program that talks about the COVID-19 and the intervention budget. I just want to check is that where is this money of intervention? Is it money expected to come from the Solidarity Fund and the risk strategy of the president? Is it there or there is money? My worry is to present something that you're still going to ask money for. You don't have it. And perhaps this disaster management plan, is the department talking about emergency houses so that we get clarity in terms of that particular profile of the program. Also, the department still talks about rectification plans, and it has got money. Perhaps the department, the national department, will clarify on this so that we don't present distortion in the process. Getting to the, I like this issue of groundwater, but I'm not getting it clear what type of groundwater the terminology of groundwater, what is this? So that we know it better. Chairperson, I think we do want to understand well the issue of integration in planning. When we talk about upgrading of informal settlement, are we clear that this project is going to have bulk infrastructure? Is it planned? Is it budgeted for? So that we move along the both departments. We cannot start now because we don't have a bulk. So it's important that we get that very well. I raise the issue because it presented separately, then the top structure is presented separately. We want to know if the planning of the project will go in tandem so that how the top structure is not delayed. The last one, Chair, on the issue of Northern Cape. The MEC talks about 1.2 million population. The HOD talks about 1.1. Perhaps if they can just consolidate that. And the recovery plan that the MEC is talking about that they've submitted maybe didn't arrive on the 26 million. It's a huge amount of money. A huge amount of money, and it's important that we get that clarity, because he's mentioning the issue of service providers that could take the department to court. So we need to get clarity on that. How are we closing that gap? Northern Cape has got only 6 military veterans. I do not believe that's the only. Perhaps they will tell us, how did they get the 6? Are they still continuing to get others, so that those people should not complain and being left out in the program? Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mbana.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Chairperson, I am checking in the presentations that have been made by Eastern Cape. First, maybe let me comment them about the informal settlements that they are talking about, especially the 600 of Emadagini area in Krisan. There were lots and lots of toys in that area. Especially now that we are facing the local government, it's better for them to really fast track the process of these informal settlements to avoid the toys. Then, in terms of the what is it? The title deeds. I think Honorable Zeki has covered me on that. I'm not going to repeat that, but I just want to check what is their problem in issuing these title deeds. We have asked from the department, from the DG, they explained, we want to hear from the province. What is it that makes them not to finalize and finish up this thing of title deeds? Because really it's a challenge in most of the areas. The other thing is that they talked about the temporary shelters in each and every district. There's a number of temporary structures. I'm checking whether these temporary structures, is it the prefabs, or the prefab houses that we know that they had before, or is it the permanent houses but will allocate for shelters for those people that will be removed from all the areas that are close by the cemeteries? What's going to happen? Is it those? Because the reality of the matter, human settlement had those prefab houses, and when someone maybe has a house that has been burnt, they don't return those temporary houses back to the municipality or to the human settlement. And I don't know what's the challenge that makes them not to force them to return those temporary, so that they can be able to assist other people that will encounter a challenge. We get people that have burnt houses, but they don't have structures to put in. In terms of water, can they share with us what is it that is happening in terms of areas that doesn't have water, especially in areas with schools that are supposed to open? They know the area that we are facing a drought, and now that we are facing a drought, we are not sure on what is it that is supposed to happen in these areas that doesn't have water, especially in rural areas, because our province is faced with the the villages. Okay, the other one is to check whether out of the Amatola board increase or tariff increase, are they aware of that? And what is their take on that? Because we presented by the Amatola water that there is a tariff increase. Yes, then we want to check what's happening. They know that, and what is their say on that as the province. With Northern Cape, maybe I missed the point of the 596 bucket eradication. Whether is it pre-94 or is it post-94? And I think Honorable Zaike has also asked about that. When do they think they will finish this? We have the information in terms of national, but we want to check when are they going to finish, because we've been talking about this since ages. They also talked about 20 million for drought in the Northern Cape. I am interested, maybe if they can share with us that what is it that they are going to do with the monies that have been distributed to municipalities. When they say it's for drought, what does that mean? What are they going to do? Are they going to do boreholes? As we can see that their presentation, at least we really comment that they are using the boreholes more than any other areas that we know. So far, so good. I think let me stop the check so that I can give others chance to ask questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Mvana. Honorable Tafeni.
I have only one question in the human settlement based. First question is, in the human settlement, the issue of title deeds. The issue of title deeds is not assisting us, and also is not assisting our people at all, because here in Bashe local municipality in the Amatola region, our people there are places like Gavenbeek, Extension 8. People from there have stayed since 2014, but till now, they have not received their title deeds. So I want to know about the issue of title deeds, about it. So I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Connie.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentations. I just wanted to ask some of the questions here. I have just 2 or 3. Like the MEC and the HOD emphasized that the Northern Cape is a province of high unemployment rate. I just want to find out, because unemployment means poverty, and the face of poverty is a woman. Now, if as far as poverty or unemployment is concerned, what is it which the department is making sure that women participate in projects in the Northern Cape? If there are any women in projects, can they give us a breakdown according to districts so that we at least have an idea what is happening? On page 12, on the Water Service Development Plan, Regional Water Services Planning Maturity, I see on page 12, only one municipality out of all the municipalities was able to do what they are expected to do. Now, I want to find out from the department if this is lack of capacity or what is it, which I think they need to share with us, or is it poor leadership, or because then it means if we don't deal with this, this is going to impact directly on the community. Then when it gets to page 14, Chairperson, on the high risk, in particular, Solplaik municipality, I think this was raised, but I just want to put emphasis on that. Because we know that Solplaik is one of the top 20 municipalities in the country. There is this persistent of leakage or water running in the streets. My worry is that all that water which is purified at Reverton, it will end up in the streets, and that is water loss. So again, in terms of refurbishments, I want to talk about Homevale because it's my constituency. Homevale has been refurbished forever. So don't they think that it's repeatedly being refurbished because there's no maintenance? Because if you refurbish and you don't maintain, you'll forever having the same problem all the time. The last question, Chair, I hear them saying that this Maharing project is being constructed. Is it for the first time or is it work continuing? Can they give me indication on that? Yesterday there was a project, a program which was run by the deputy chairperson of Mrs. There was this program yesterday, which women from Pixley, or deputy chairperson of the NCOP, women from Pixley in the Northern Cape were raising the same issue of pit toilets. They are saying that it's unacceptable that at this time we still have pit toilets. So please, women are crying. Can we listen to their cries? Because we all know that this affects women most. I know it affects everybody, but women are the ones who are always in the forefront. So the title deeds, also the last one. Can they give us a breakdown of title deeds which are going to be issued, or title deeds which have already been issued to the communities? Thank you, Chairperson. That was my last question.
Thank you. I suppose I've finished my list. Just to one question for me, which it's affecting Northern Cape, the 26 million, which they're claiming that it has created accruals for them. Just to check with the department, my understanding was that if you take the allocation for a particular province, immediately when they are ready in the next financial year, you are able to replace it. What is the situation with this with the Northern Cape? The second issue is the issue that they are saying we should intervene on land, prime land, which is owned by Public Works. Is department aware of that? What is it that they've done? And if they are not aware, what is the process forward? Can HDA assist the Northern Cape to get that land? Because of the time, I don't want to. I will will further write other question and send to both the provinces on the program progress and we in writing. But I'm going to allow the departments to respond. I'm not sure who starts. Let's say human settlement.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Yes.
Chair, I have two MECs, one from the Eastern Cape and one from the. Just to say two things, Chair, before they answer questions. Towards the end of the financial year last year, we decided as a department to do a roadshow just to sensitize departments on issues of title deeds, the money which is not used. We went to Northern Cape, we went to 4 provinces. This time, I hear maybe they will tell you their challenges, but it's not the first time that it was posed this question. I did answer when we were doing our presentation. but almost all members of parliament has asked this question of title deeds, which is a concern to them because it's not the first time they are asking it. If I could tell you, Chair, and the honourable members, money is not a problem. There is money which Treasury gave province grant each year. That's what I was going to tell them when I was doing the roadshow. That please, provinces, there is this money that you are not using. Please make sure that you use them. It's not the first time that you say why I'm not giving the people title deeds. And again, you raised this government banking issue. And I think now provinces are here. They will see that we always answer these questions. And they are here today. Maybe they have challenges. And I know one of the challenges which is faced by provinces, it's issues like township establishment in line with FLUMA requirements. So they get delayed with municipalities, but I'm not there for them. They must answer for themselves. I'm not their mouthpiece this time. But again, Chair, the issue of, we say military, because we were actually on it, commitment, and we were having meetings with the Deputy Minister of Military Veterans. When COVID-19 started, we had a meeting prepared to go to Nelson Mandela, but it stopped us, the COVID-19 stopped the whole program of us meeting military veterans. We had a program of going to Nelson Mandela. And I think by now, Chair, we hope COVID-19 is here to come with our strategies, how to make sure that before this, make sure that we go back and plan again and make sure that we use the money. And I think without wasting time, Chair, I think what I wanted to highlight is that the money is not a problem of EWD. Grant is there. Treasury is giving provinces money, but there are other challenges that are faced by provinces. And I think this time, Chair, let me allow the two provinces, the NECs and the HODs to answer other questions. Thank you very much, Chair.
MEC Eastern Cape has apologized. Can we give MEC for Northern Cape and we'll go to the HODs? The MEC for Eastern Cape have left the meeting. They have a cabinet at 2 o'clock. MEC from Northern Cape?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me first start with the one about the confusion about the population of the Northern Cape. I can confirm it's 1.2. So I think when the HOD presented, they were saying 1.1 to 1.2 in terms of the population. But also I think there's a number of questions raised by the honourable members, and I think that some of the issues we are really looking to address some of them. Starting with the one of title deeds. One of the critical issues that we are sitting and the challenges that we experience is in terms of a number of our people in our communities. They don't have a will, and when the family member die, there's a fight about the will because there's no will, and there's a fight amongst the family members, which poses a serious challenge. But also, I think we are sitting with the challenges in terms of our human settlements, where the issue was raised that we are not doing enough to spend the money. And I think from the side of the department, we can confirm that we are really putting our efforts to make sure that we service our communities. That's why in terms of the servicing of sites, it's for us as a Northern Cape, it's a priority to make sure that we service our sites, starting with servicing of sites and then focus on the top structures. So our focus as a province is on the servicing of sites. Then there was Water Affairs will respond in terms of the vacancy rates that they have. We are also sitting as a department with challenges in terms of vacancies. I think I need to stress it. Human settlements itself, we are sitting in human settlements with over 35 vacant positions because we don't have money. Treasury don't want to give us money to fill these positions. So that impact on the performance of our department. In terms of the recovery plan, we've submitted the recovery plan to national, and I think our recovery plan was not considered by national. That's why we are sitting with the challenge of some of the service providers that we still have to pay. And then on the one of the challenges of drought, as a Northern Cape, we are sitting with a number of our municipalities experiencing serious challenges of drought. But I think the issue of COVID really assists us because we managed to deliver a number of, I think, almost 800 water tankers, Jojo tankers to our communities. The main challenge that we are sitting now is the issue of water tankers, because if the department, if Citibank can and Rainwater can withdraw the water tankers, we will sit with a challenge how to fill the water tankers. So that one is a serious one. That's why we think that the reprioritization of our MIC is important to make sure that we address the outstanding issues. Chairperson, can I hand over to the HOD and the team to respond to the other issues?
Thanks, Chairperson. The MEC has spoken a lot on the first part that was raised regarding the sites in terms of our target and our plan. We do have a plan. I think based on that presentation also, it's self-explanatory that now, obviously we look in terms of the target. Over close to 2,329 sites will be serviced this year. And then only yielding, for example, for this year, our target for top structures is 382. So obviously our plan is to ensure that now we deliver more sites to address also the gap market and also making sure that now the upper bracket in terms of income in the mining towns especially, they get a slice of the service sites. So regarding the rectification, the issue was raised regarding the poor workmanship. In terms of the HSDG, the one that has been approved is for MIRI. The cause there, it was not through poor workmanship, it was through the thunderstorm that was experienced in those years. So we need to ensure that now, because people reported us to the public protector, South African Human Rights Commission came to us like a ton of bricks. So we had to check and request the minister to give an approval. So the minister finally gave an approval, but obviously it has got an impact on our budget allocation or the baseline. We have to refund something for that rectification. However, the contractors that gave us poor work, obviously we are following them through NHBRC, HDA, doing assessments. We are engaging them to ensure that now we get what we have invested in them based on what we are supposed to be delivered, based on the designs and what has been approved by the engineering sections. So we are in constant discussion. But however, the number is very high, Chairperson, for information. Obviously, the MEC spoke a lot on the recovery plan that was submitted, and also the revised business plan was approved. However, towards the end of the financial year, that's what we experienced. And we are sitting with accruals now of 25.4 million, of which service has been rendered by those contractors legitimately. So we need to make ends meet with the little resources that we are having. The military vets, obviously, we had a tender of or a bid or contractor that was appointed to deliver 66 units for the military vets. Only 32 were completed in Kimberley due to financial constraints the service provider or the contractor was facing. Yet we ended up terminating and we parted ways. So the 6 that we are speaking to here is only those ones that was incompleted and have to be completed. But in the 2 outer years, we do have a plan. We do have military vets. What they need is server sites. We are working closely with the municipalities to assist those military vets. But we are in constant discussion with the national department, where we normally sit down to also screen on who the people are that are qualifying in terms of the military vet. So we are in discussion with that, Chairperson. Regarding the input of Honorable Soposen there in terms of women, when we do our calculations here, checking in terms of the rents and cents for this year, 33% of 319 million will go towards women contractors, 7 of them, which translate into 104 million almost. That will go towards women contractors. But we do have a program that MEC has launched during the budget speech in terms of contractor development. The challenge with the Northern Cape, we've got a limited capacity. Women contractors, is few of them that move, that can, or at a grade, or at a level of 5, 6, and 7. Most of them, close to 2009 of the contractors within the province, including male contractors, they are at level 1, between 1 and level 3. So there is a contractor development plan that we are having to make sure that now we move them, we migrate them, by making sure that now there are no more subcontractors, but at least they are able also to benefit out of the baseline of the department. So we are trying our level best with the limited resources, Honorable Soposen, to make sure that now we give women an opportunity, and we report through MINMAC in terms of the DORA to say how much has been ring-fenced, how much has been spent towards women. So we do have those figures. Title deeds, obviously, it brings dignity, it brings humanity to a beneficiary. However, as MEC said, the diseased estate, there's a challenge there. But for now, due to COVID, we couldn't issue. We've got what is known as Title Deeds Friday, or Friday Title Deeds, where MEC has requested mayors to issue those title deeds. But also the challenge is local municipalities, where there's also those archives where you find that there are still title deeds. So they've been urged to make sure that through the PIGF, Premier has requested all the local municipalities, mayors, to ensure that now all those title deeds are issued. So we are hoping that now, post-COVID, if it's terminated, we'll have to make sure that we put measures in place to bring back that campaign of Fridays where now title deeds will be issued, Chairperson. On that note, Chair, let me drop my anchor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair. There are 2 questions that are not answered. I don't know if the HOD of Eastern Cape is here, the temporary structures.
No, we're supposed to
Eastern Cape is not.
HOD.
Yeah.
HOD is here. HOD.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you once again, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. I'll just quickly go on those perhaps that are not even covered by the Northern Cape, because if you look at the issue of future programs, I think we're the same with the Northern Cape in terms of future planning. The forward planning is to provide more service sites and have an incremental development. So we want to give people service sites and tenure rights, and there is a guidance that's already been given by National Department on that, so that we increase that on the service sites to people. The issue of pre-94, maybe the situation of Eastern Cape is peculiar to others. And our pre-94 stock is actually mostly on the western side of the province, and the quality is such that it is not proper to transfer the houses to people, because the people demand a rectified house. However, we've been doing consumer education to the people to appreciate the fact that transfer is not about the building, but the transfer is about the site. And we've been trying to increase that consumer education for appreciation of the consumers. So the demand on the remedial work of their houses could not be met also because of the 10% compliance policy when it comes to rectification, because you want to balance both the new houses as well as remedial work. On the issue of the breakdown of the 1.5 billion, the allocation I think was done there in slide 6 in terms of the regions and beneficiation of the regions, and that talks to both sides and the units. Safe to say that for Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, there were no sites provided because they've got a USDG. However, I have noted the issue of alignment that we should do between the HSDG and USDG. For future purposes, we'll be able to demonstrate that. On the issue of the reasons for backlog in OR, for us to talk about 8,278, we do want to just show the fact that we have had a high turnover in terms of the social contracts in the system, where we have approved people and there is still a problem of the moving target of the housing demand. And what is coming out very clearly is the issue of the more vulnerable, because the OR TAM or the stats show that they've got more elderly people, but then coupled with that is the issue of the fiscal constraints when it comes to the overall budget for the whole province. However, it is not a capability issue, but it's more aligned with the issue of the fiscal decline. The issue of the emergency human settlements grant that we were silent on. We have for the current business plan, current financial year, projected a 15 million 15, which would yield approximately 300 units of temporary shelters, because the Eastern Cape is actually advocating for permanent solutions, utilizing innovative building solutions rather than temporary solutions. So it is only 15 million that has been budgeted for the year, and the budgeting was done prior to COVID-19. And so that 15 million was not about the COVID-19. On the issue of excluding the metros, it is I think it is only the services that are excluded and not necessarily the units. Both the metros have got a budget for housing opportunities. BCM has got 1,451. And Nelson Mandela has got 1,021 housing units that should be yielded in this financial year. Perhaps just to add on the issue of houses, I know it can also be applicable to the Eastern Cape, and the issue was what is the role of an HBRC. I just wanted to indicate that these are historical projects in the Eastern Cape, because when we started the development in 1994, NHBRC as a regulator was not yet in place, and NHBRC as a regulator emerged in 2008. But also, we do want to indicate that from 2013 in the Eastern Cape, you will not find any rectification going forward. However, we've got rectification. The then developers who were municipalities actually yielded to these poor planning issues, and we ended up with rectification. And NHBRC was not yet in place at that point in time. But there is improvement since the emergence of the regulator in place. On the issue of the upgrading of informal settlements and the budget discrepancies, I'm going to allow Mr. Venn to talk to the issues of the numbers affected as well as the sizes. I'll ask Mr. Venn to actually add after I've indicated. On the issue of title deeds and bottlenecks and not moving forward, I think the Honorable Deputy Minister has covered us, although she's saying she's not speaking for us. However, she covered us very properly, because the issues that have actually created the backlog is the issues of poor planning when we started the development since 1994. Which are actually encompassed in the pre-conveyancing activities. And some of them are the township establishments that are there. Some, the township registers are already expired. Some are succession-related issues where the families are fighting now in terms of who, because there's already a deceased ownership, and you need to do dispute resolution before you can register your title deeds. And some of these or most of these projects, because they are historical, then you need to do a beneficiary verification in terms of the possessor of the house to confirm that the possessor is the rightful ownership in terms of what the government intended. And then you have to do something that is called beneficiary verification. And in the Eastern Cape, we have got many of those, and that is what delays the registration, because registration is doesn't take long. However, it's these pre-conveyancing activities that emanated from poor planning at that point in time. And as I'm indicating that it's lessons learned in the Eastern Cape, we've got many, and the municipalities were developers. In the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, let me share that one for the last. And on the issue of rural projects not being finalized and the capabilities, I will ask Mr. Suresh Kalaitiawa to talk to that. On the issue of COVID-19, whether there's additional budget, no, there is none. And it is not the Solidarity Fund. However, we're looking at reprioritizing in terms of the available funding, should it become necessary to remove those people that are densely populated in the informal settlements, because one would want to begin to create social distance so that there is no, you want to contain the spread. So it also means that it is not, the business is not about emergency houses, but when you are relocating, the direction from the province has been very clear that you relocate for resettling, so that we do long-term investment. So where we are relocating them, there should be service sites so that we resettle such people. So, and that is the intention. And as we are aware that temporary shelters should not be exceeding a period of 6 months. And that is the plan that we're trying to put in place as the Eastern Cape, that we will try and utilize IBT, resettle people with permanent solutions, should there be a relocation, because there is still none at this point in time. We are still dealing with emergency cases that are coming out of the rural areas, and we are providing them with temporary shelters because the code will not protect them from the COVID-19. And so that is the intent. On the rectification funding, I think that question was not for me, but how is it funded? Yes, it is funded within the HSDG, and it comes from within and I don't want to get too much into that. However, our position has always been that if therefore a house needs rectification and it's shoddy work, that beneficiary has not yet benefited from government. And so that is why I earlier indicated that we're trying to create a leverage between the new developments as well as those houses that are there with shoddy work, so that all the beneficiaries can, we can have a leverage between them. On the issue of integrated planning when it comes to informal settlements, whether it is clear that projects must have bulk and so forth, Mr. Van is going to come in there to explain in terms of our engagements that we have with our municipalities. Then the issue, I think I've dealt with the issue of what exactly is the problem on registration and issuance of title deeds. Perhaps let me just touch on the issue of issuance. We are coming from an era where in the Eastern Cape, there were title deeds that were registered by those lawyers who were lawyers of the municipalities when municipalities were developers. However, we discovered that those municipalities were keeping those title deeds. And once we discovered that as Eastern Cape, we issued a directive for all of them, those conveyancers, to bring back to the political principal who is the custodian of the tenure of security. And that we have done, and we have been distributing, which is the issuance of the title deeds. On the Mbashe issue, Honorable, on outstanding title deeds, my advices are that these were handed over in the year 2018 by the political principal, but I will make a follow-up on this and be able to brief further. Now, the last point I will respond to and allow my two colleagues to come into the three issues is the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. I just want to indicate that there will be development in the Nelson Mandela Metro because we've got budget that we've put there is 205 for the year. And this is coupled with the issue of demand of developer, which the honorable member has raised. And it is still being raised. But I just wanted to indicate that whilst the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro was accredited at a level 2, however, it deemed appropriate that there was a need to do an intervention there. at some point in time, because even though they were accredited, but they were not developing properly, and it was necessary. And such protocols that were in place have since expired. And on expiry, we have been trying to work together with the Metro. The problem is more of a behavioral issue on the technocrats. And it is something that we have decided to deal with as the province. We have engaged the acting city manager, and we have proposed a hands-on support to be given to the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, which means that we are allowed in terms of program 2, that we should have such capacitation issues, because for us to unblock the behavioral patterns that are seated within certain individuals who are refusing to cooperate with the province so that we can be able to develop together. We have decided on this, and we have presented it to the acting city manager and his team and her team. And we are hoping that we are going to be able to resolve the problems that are seated there, which are mainly project readiness related problems. That is the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. We are supposed to be sitting in a week's time. However, we've been advised that we might not be able to proceed because of the COVID, as they are operating under the disaster. The council meetings are not sitting, and this needs to be presented to the council. I will pause there.
Thank you. The time is up for human settlement. Let's give it to.
Oh, yes. But they're still outstanding.
They're
still
outstanding. Yes, they'll write them down, and we'll get to that, honorable member. Let's have water and sanitation.
Chair, how many minutes are you giving us?
Koliswa.
Hello, Chairperson. Hello, Chairperson.
Yes, are we continuing until 1:30?
Because on our side,
yes. Koliswa. No.
Chairperson.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, what? Continue until 1:30. We have 24 minutes, DM. You can introduce, and then if your question are not, you can finish early, and then
we can finish early, Chairperson, because in our case, I'm going to request just our regional head for Eastern Cape Chair and the one for Northern Cape, just to spend not more than 3 minutes each, Chairperson. Then I will just do the summary after them, Comrade Chair.
Okay.
With your permission, we can start with the Eastern Cape. As you are aware, in the Eastern Cape, we are providing all the support. Remember, the province was declared in terms of disaster, and then this very same thing we also did with Northern Cape and the support, especially around the question of the source. If we can just give them maybe 3 minutes each or 4 minutes each, Chairperson, with your permission, then I will come in maybe for 2 to 3 minutes, then we'll close on our side, because most of the issues are much clearer, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Eastern Cape.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. In terms of the questions that were asked, the first one was a comment of saying when we're talking about 31 years, it seems a bit far, and there has to be a way of saying how are we going to speed up access, and not say we're gonna, work with the 31 years that we're talking to. But it's safe to say the WISC funding was precisely introduced because of that aspect. But that was a comment, and I think more work needs to be done as to how this can be fast-tracked. The second one was that we needed to pay Amatola Water what we owe them as per the input. However, just Chair, maybe I didn't come across clear. It is Amatola Water and those municipalities that are actually owning the department. And I said in the presentation that the fact that municipalities are struggling to pay Amatola Water has got an effect on them paying us, Chair. But I know, Chair, this matter has been presented to the recent portfolio committee engagement together with SAWGA and other water boards, and I know there's hope for them to deal with this matter. However, it is of course reflective tariffs. There was also a question whether we are aware that they are increasing tariffs. Yes, Chair, we are aware. It's a consultative process where we are part of. And I'm saying, Chair, that the homework given to SAWGA and the water boards and the department will, I'm sure, give clarity on the matter. In areas, Chair, where there is no water, we were asked, especially where drought is an issue, drought funding, Chair, in the slides that I've provided later on, projects are currently underway as reflected per municipality, and the different stages of those projects are there. Largely, it's groundwater development, Chair, and spring protection. Groundwater, as it was asked, what exactly are we referring to? We're talking about boreholes that have been drilled, as well as springs that are being protected. Springs are water that are emerging from the ground, emerging to the surface, where we need to protect where the eye is of that spring and then provide further guidance. And I think for 3 minutes I can say that, Chair, the others can be provided in writing. The issues of vacancies as well, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Quickly, around the 596 buckets, they all, or it's a project in Campbell which is not been completed. The main reason for that is that the wastewater treatment plant was not yet been constructed, and they're still waiting for the ROD of the wastewater treatment plant. But our own DWS construction unit is busy in that area. I can find out what is their exact program to complete the bucket eradication in Campbell. On the main outfall sewer for from Kocha pump station, that the practical completion was reached. So the pipeline is in use, but there is still some construction work that is continuing, but it can at this stage being used. The Kocha pump station is in construction. It's funded by Soplaiki themselves, but we can find out exactly what is the time frame and when it should be completed. The vacancies we have spoken, there is 3 posts, it's the provincial head, the acting or the CFO, and then the director institutional establishment, and that was not yet advertised. After all of them were advertised. Some were, interviews was done. Some, the interviews was postponed due to the lockdown. And then there's also still a problem with some of the vetting of applicants.
Well, thank you very much. We've lost you, or you're done.
Yeah, there are sounds of plates and spoons and forks and.
We've lost DM.
No, thank you very much, Your Excellency, Comrade Chair. And then to Pemne, our Deputy Minister for Human Settlements, and then to all the members, and to the 2 colleagues, Comrade MEC Peters and Comrade MEC Vass, and the team. Chairperson, thank you very much. I think from our side, we must firstly congratulate you as our chair and the honorable members, because the instruction by President that the best way to get economies of scale was to go through a district development model. And we're very pleased, like Honorable Mampem has said, that you were able to bring us here so that we can demonstrate in terms that these plans are integrated and these plans are also funded so that we can be able to make that particular input. By doing this exercise, Chairperson, we feel empowered, even when you do your oversight role, because the oversight role must also be on the question of planning. Well, Chairperson, as we demonstrated in our APP and the detailed project list that our teams have shown now, including the budget that is being allocated, we know that, Chairperson, in the next 2 weeks, probably, the Minister of Finance is going to be presenting the adjusted budget because of what happened in the country and in the world. Therefore, we'll be able to demonstrate afterwards whether there are some small changes that are impacting there. But from an alignment point of view, we're very pleased. And remember, Chairperson, we are already in the space trying to help in the 2 provinces and other provinces. The issue of the Eastern Cape, Chairperson, in as much as we're dealing with the question of the drought, and resources were being put in, and our entities are working so well. And Deputy Minister Mamchwete, she has been monitoring things there for the entire 2 departments on the ground, even our response to COVID. But in the Eastern Cape, Mam Nancy will always be correct that the issue of developing the source in the Eastern Cape is going to be the biggest issue. Because in the meantime, we have not received the rains that we can say were out of the woods. Therefore, groundwater, especially for certain communities, Chairperson, will continue to be something that we will need to put more resources on the ground. And in the Eastern Cape, where particular work has been done, we've been able to get that these aquifers are actually of good quality. Well, we know that we still have to do some work in terms of source development with respect to the possibility of using the seawater, and then it remains part of the plan, while we will be able to develop with the other major infrastructure projects, whether Umzimvubu and others, so that we can be able to ensure that water is there. The very same thing when it comes to the Northern Cape, because Northern Cape, Chairperson, in as much as we have our orange Seno river that is passing there, and it's not that all the other areas have water there. Therefore, the question of groundwater in the Northern Cape still remain important. Well, the issue of distance, MEC is very correct that we need to be able, even when we do the funding, the formula, we must be able to look at the question of the spatial even distribution on where these areas are, it has impact. Well, Chairperson, both presentation has demonstrated that we'll continue to work closely with the 2 MSCs and 2 provincial governments. The capacity of those municipalities in those provinces as water services authorities, Chair, our own assessment, the gaps are the biggest. That's why we rely on Amatola and Sedibeng water in certain areas where they are involved, that we must be able to build the capacity. The last matter, Chairperson, in the 2 provinces, with our water licensing, there's an opportunity, Chair, of supporting our land reform program, especially those people that will be acquiring land as part of our land restitution in terms of support for the emerging farmers, because you have insisted on us, Chairperson, in the committee, that issues of transformation must be seen there. Therefore, the involvement of our own people in terms of certain hectares of land that is being put aside is one of the important issues apart from the services side when it comes to water resources. The last point that the acting provincial head for Northern Cape, we have made a presentation, Chair, about that the structure of the department has been concluded. We have to start to do the stabilization of the department. The stabilization, Chair, is not only about filling of this position at the head office, including the capacity in provinces, because provinces must be geared, one, to support the provincial governments in terms of their provincial growth and development strategies, but also have that particular duty to regulate the water sector in the various provinces. Other than that, Chairperson, Tina, we are very pleased that our working relationship is good. We can be measured with these plans and commitments we have made through the two presentations on how are we supporting the work for the provinces as outlined by the two MECs. Ngiyaleboga, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, DM. Let's go back to human settlement because we still have some few minutes. HOD and the DM national DG. There are questions that are directed to the DG and DM. Let's start with allowing the Eastern Cape to finish their response.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Chair. I didn't unmute. Chair, I think most
No.
Hello.
Let's start with
Eastern Cape.
With the province, the Eastern Cape province must finish their response because there are questions that yes.
Okay, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
HOD and
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Through you, I will ask Mr. Venn to come on those issues they discussed. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, Honorable DMs. I wanted to respond on the issue around the discrepancies with regard to budget. There's actually the reason the budgets will differ from region to region because the budget is determined by the number of households per settlement. As you will see, Honorable Chair, in around Amatole District Municipality with the annexure attached as per our presentation, you will see that the households there's few households in the settlements around Amatole. Whereas when you go to areas like OR Tambo, you'll find, for example, in Krisani alone, around KSD, one settlement has got about 3,400 plus households. So the budget will differ. If you look at projects around Sarah Batman, the households, there's very few households. So that's why you will find that there will be that difference in budget. You'll have fewer settlements in OR Tambo, but more budget because there is more people with regard to those settlements. Also, Honorable Chair, settlements are defined, and you will see as per the annexure that we have, as per their category. You've got category A, which are those settlements that can be fully upgraded. You've got category B, those that can be fully upgraded, but there are issues of land and bulk. Then you've got category C, which is agent relocation required. So the budget will differ per settlement and per the category. And if you look at the annexure that has been attached in a presentation done by our HOD, you will find that the budgets are there per settlement that are there. With regard to issues around integration, in the Eastern Cape we have the NASP Upgrading Support Forum, which is attended by all municipalities. So what you are getting in our business plan, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, is what is coming straight out of the municipalities. All the projects that you have, you'll find that they have a council resolution from the municipality and they are in the IDPs on the municipalities. So we are attending with the municipalities those forums, and wherein
municipalities, they present their plans, and then we incorporate. And where there are issues where there's outstanding issues, we deal with the municipality and support. And I must say that platform, Honorable Chair, has been very successful in that all municipalities have been attending. As you can see now, we have quite a credible number of informal settlements that we are going to upgrade. I think that were those that were referred to me. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. There was a question on the outstanding RDP houses in the rural areas. Yes, indeed, there are outstanding houses. And if you consider the allocation since 2015, we were allocating in the region of about 208 million to 308 million since 2019-2020. And we had a target of about 950 units to about 2,000 units per year, considering from 2015. So considering the backlog of 8,538, and it's a moving target. Yes, we are unable to meet the required backlog. But having said that, even with the current stock, there are instances of poor performing contractors, and we need to accept that we are dealing with those, and also bringing in replacement contractors to fast track delivery of houses that are outstanding in the rural areas. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Okay, who was speaking?
It was Northern Cape, Chair.
Oh,
I think
okay.
the HOD for Northern Cape.
Oh, all right. Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go to acting DG, and then we can then have the DM closing. If he's here. If he's not here, DM, you can take over.
May I proceed? Thank you, Madam Chair. I think there are three issues that I would want to deposit with the committee. The first being the 26 million rands that was cut from the HSDG allocation to Northern Cape. Madam Chair, as we previously submitted to the committee, the performance of all the provinces in terms of the grant is monitored on an ongoing basis. And in the second quarter, Madam Chair, the sector comes together, looks at how all of these provinces are performing, and there is a standing policy of MINMEC that, in fact, it is not so much a MINMEC policy as much as it is a conditional grant provision, that where one province at that point is not performing in terms of expenditure and delivery, it is best to reallocate the unspent portion of the grant to other provinces. And this is practically what has happened in respect of the Northern Cape. This process, Madam Chair, happens every year. Now, the reality here is that the DORA does not make provision for reserving funds for provinces that underperformed in previous years. It's simply a principle that you use it at the time you have it, or you lose it if you haven't used that. And those cards, Madam Chair, are implemented well in time to allow provinces and metros where this happens to be able to make necessary adjustments. The MEC is correct. The recovery plan that was submitted was considered. However, it was found that it would not mitigate the risk that the province was facing at that time. Hence, MINMEC proceeded to adopt that view. That's on the one matter, Madam Chair. The second matter is in respect of the land parcel that's owned by Public Works. Cabinet has already approved the release of that land. The committee would remember in January, I think it's January, not February, we confirmed these matters. The Minister of Public Works will make the announcements. We will finalize the administrative bits to get this land released for the purpose the province is asking. The last thing, Madam Chair, and I think we are probably the Eastern Cape province had an opportunity and still does to take the committee into confidence about the 90 million that the members are asking for. The 90 million that was approved for emergency housing. The reality is simply that it could not be spent on time. And therefore, because the province had to interact with communities, agree with communities as to the appropriate solution thereof. I submit, Madam Chair, that the project of emergency housing in respect of the approved emergency housing grant in the province was only implemented far later than was anticipated. And the province can, as it always does, submit that status report, and then we can deposit that with the committee. Lastly, Madam Chair, I'm asked here that I must indicate to the committee, in the interest of time, by my colleague, the acting DG, Water and Sanitation, that the question on Amatola tariffs can be dealt with at the next, or rather next week, with the board. I think there's a scheduled engagement in that respect. It will be ventilated better in that sector. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. DM, 2 minutes to close. DM?
I didn't know that. Chair, thank you very much for your time, and thank the members of Parliament. Also, I would like to say to the Chair and members of Parliament, this time we'll keep an eye on the program on this financial year. We'll make it the point that the title deeds are fast-tracked, and also all the areas that we are not happy with, we'll make sure that we improve and accept the COVID-19, who is actually making things, and things have changed now, the program has changed, but we'll make it the point that we don't stop, we do our work. And I want to thank everyone. I want to thank the chair, the chair, also the MECs from both departments for presentation. Thank you very much, my chair. And you did not allow me to
We have not thanked me, Ma'am Pam.
How
Thank
can
you
I
very much.
do that?
Thank you very
So,
much.
I love you,
Women settlement.
Me too.
You're out of order. You're out of order, Honorable Mahlobo. Honorable members, I know that there might be some follow-up question that you wanted to ask, but the time that we were given is up now. We were even given extra 30 minutes. I'm going to ask that we can write those questions and to Kolisa deposit them to the department, and we'll get the written response. Kolisa, I hope that we are following up on the written questions that members have given to you to deposit to the department. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody and say the meeting is stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Bandla, Comrade Chair, thank you.
Long live Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Viva Lunda.
Chairperson was strong. GM have not left the meeting.
Thanks, Ms. Grace.
Thank you, GM. Thank you, Sis Pam.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you for supporting.